And we are live. Welcome to NFL Showdown, live before lock, leading in to 3 hours and 30 more minutes after me of live coverage of this lovely NFL week. Week 7? Am I reading that correctly? Good God. That is... How does the NFL season just move so quickly? I don't know how that happens, but it is happening right now. And we're going to be talking about another London game this morning. The New England Patriots taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's not going to be a very good day in London. I believe this is in London, correct? Assuming this is in London, because I do know they move around. It'll be a bad day in London because Chelsea's going to lose to Liverpool today. What? And they have to watch Jags-Pats. The Jags were absolutely dreadful last week. I guess the cure for what ails you could very easily be the New England Patriots, because for however bad we think the Jags are, we definitely think that the Pats are worse than that. And we're going to dig into as much of this as we can while we work our way through this slate and build some lineups in the single lineup simulator. Before we go any further, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engelman. We got a lot of big stuff coming up over these next few days. Sports calendar is changing dramatically. Tuesday, 24 hours from now, the NBA gets started. We get started with my personal favorite thing to do, talking about the NBA every single day. Strategy show, 9 a.m., Odd Shopper Live, noon, pre-recorded VODs all throughout the day. Deeper dive at 5, live before lock at 6, live watching the games on playback exclusively after lock at 7 o'clock. Man, we are going to have a ton of fun in the near future. The football is still here and not going anywhere anytime soon. And we're going to talk about it right now. I've got lineups simulating. I've got lineups that just finished simulating. Yay, us. I could take a look at what I've got so far and what we think we can best land on for tonight's slate. I'm going to hit you guys right away. I want to know what chat thinks. I need the answer. Everybody let me know. Who is the number one captain that you're looking to get to in this game? Is it Drake May? Is it Trevor Lawrence? Is it Christian Kirk? I don't know. Who are we feeling? That's what I want to know. Who are we feeling for today? And then we're going to start building out some lineups. I am going to grab my package of lineups, make sure I get that entered in before we do anything else. But I want to know what you guys are looking at. Ooh, the final lineup that I selected has the Patriots defense as a captain. That sounds like it'll be a real good time for all those involved. All right, let's see. May, Bigsby, Ingram, Bigsby, Ingram, Tank, May, Ingram, May, Bigsby. So I think we can very easily see there is a consensus answer here, or there are consensus answers. A lot of Tank Bigsby, a decent enough amount of Evan Ingram to the point where it's more than I was expecting you guys to say. So I think the first place that we want to start, based on what I'm seeing out of chat, you guys were quick. Tank Bigsby seems like the guy that we need to take a look at. So I'm going to pull up the single lineup simulator on my end. I know Jordan already has it pulled up for me. Maybe I can see it anyway. Let me pin this window. Oh, yeah, I'll be able to see it. We'll be fine. All right, so let's get Tank Bigsby in. And let's see what we can build with old Tank, shall we? We're going to switch that to large contest, which Jordan has already done. We're going to get Tank Bigsby in at the captain spot. Now, as I look at my personal lineups, I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got like 7 or 8 Tank Bigsby captain lineups, so I seem to be in the same sort of visual as you guys. I think you guys want the same things that I want. I'm going to be all over Bigsby as well. And he's showing up a lot in the rest of my lineups. Trevor Lawrence is my most exposed player. Drake May is a close second, but Tank Bigsby. I am 2xing the field on Bigsby right now, so I'm kind of excited to see what we can build out here. Bigsby captain. What are the rest of our options? What stands out? I mean, obviously, I assume we're going to be going to... Why can't I think of his name? Trevor Lawrence. I couldn't get Trevor Lawrence's name out of my head right there. That was weird. I think we could get by actually in a lineup without Trevor Lawrence. So let's look at Tank Bigsby at the captain spot. Let's look at... This will change up the structure of this lineup quite a bit. Let's add D'Ernest Johnson, which I know people aren't going to love right out of the gate. Let's add Demario Douglas. Let's get Drake May, so you get a pass catcher and a quarterback on the opposite side. I'll go Jags D. I expect Drake May to make some mistakes. Maybe we can get that the pick six we're looking for. And then let's take Ramondre. Let's hope that he grabs a regular old touchdown. Now that spends the full 50K. You want the top guy in that list, Jordan, Ramondre Stevenson. 73.83 is the projection that I have in here. 184.78 is the ownership. Whoa, I am getting heavy deja vu right now. I've definitely done this. There's a glitch in the matrix. I'm going to try to harness the deja vu in my head so that I could learn what the actual winning lineup is. Because remembering that I built these lineups in our single sim tool is not as cool as remembering what the actual outcome is. Can we take a look here at how good this looks? Jordan, mine on my screen is way better than yours. I got 95% on my run. Do you have it at 20% or 25% first place? Switch it to 25 and run that bad boy again. You might have to take Stevenson out and put him back in. By the way, I also I ran to the gas. My wife took the final coffee this morning, so I had to go grab a coffee before we got started. So I ran to the gas station to grab some coffee. I also got myself a little snackerdoodle for today. Yeah. Sour Patch Kid watermelon. Yeah, there we go. 87.8. Aaron in chat says, my boy Josh, I ain't seen you in a minute. You should try turning on the YouTube channel for Stokastic or Odd Shopper on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. I'm here every day, brother. I'm here every day. Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. NBA talk from now until June. I'll be here. But yeah, I've got some Sour Patch Kids to eat later on while I'm watching Liverpool beat the shit out of Chelsea. It's going to be a great Sunday. Hope you're involved in all of the wins that I want. Do you guys like the lineup that we built? That's my next question to you guys. What do you think about this 3-3 Jags-Pats lineup that dropped the old 95% ROI bomb? I think we could probably do another Tank Bigsby lineup. And I think this one should probably bring Trevor Lawrence along for the ride. So I'm going to put Bigsby back in at the captain spot along with Trevor Lawrence. I like the idea of maintaining the Jags defense. This is where it starts to get really bleak. Let's get Evan Ingram. That's at least 4 Jags now. You know what? I'm gonna go 5-1 with the only Patriot being Ramondre Stevenson. So this is gonna be pretty similar to that lineup that we just made. But we're gonna leave 800 on the table. Let me make sure that you have this here. Tank Bigsby, Lawrence, Jaguars, Ingram, D'Ernest Johnson, and then Ramondre Stevenson again. Oh, wait, you already have Ramondre. D'Ernest Johnson again. Let's see what this one looks like. Because that's just Jags onslaught, but from every direction. Running game, defense, passing, and then it's just like maybe Ramondre Stevenson is the guy that falls in the end zone for the Pats. The Czar is here. I got 155 on my screen. You guys should just be happy with the 120 that just popped up. Mike H says, I just got a 210 with 25% to first. I don't believe it. The Czar is on this side of the screen. 210? I don't buy it, Mike. We might have to hire you. But this is where we can stand right now. Comment God says, I hate Jag RB. Well, I can tell you what, the sim tool does not hate Jag RB. Very fond of these Tank Bigsby, Dearness Johnson combo lineups that we're getting to. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I did just ooh. It felt like a very fitting time to ooh. I think I deserved my ooh. But now we need another captain. Now, before I get into the captain, we need to talk a little bit about what's coming up for the NBA in the near future. We've got a couple options for you guys, and one of the options is bigger than the NBA. So if you're not an NBA exclusive person, you might not love the beginning of this sentence. You're going to like what I have to say afterwards. Tip-off 24 is the NBA promo code that we've got running. You see the banner at the top of the screen. Until October 29th, this package is $1, a single buck. You cannot beat that deal. This is projections, ownership, boom bust tool, the sim tools, whether it's single lineup sim, whether it's all of the bulk sims, everything. You're in for a buck. Now, I shouldn't have to explain to anybody why that's great. $1 for this first week. If you've never tried anything at Stokastic, if you have and you hated it, $1 is still just a very reasonable amount to see the changes that are coming into this NBA season. And we have been diving deep into the NBA. So if you like that, if all of that sounds great, if you're NBA exclusive, you can get in for a buck. Use our avatar, win a contest in that first week. You could potentially pay for your entire NBA season off this first dollar. That is in the realm of possibility for you. Now, maybe, just maybe, you want a little bit more than that. Could be. Jordan's quick. He got it on the screen immediately. 10% off our all-access package forever. Forever. Until you cancel, you will have a perpetual 10% off on our all-access package using the promo code EVERYTHING. If you play more than one sport, if it's not just NFL for you, you're going to get into NBA, you've been playing MLB, you mess around with MMA and PGA on the weekends, this is what you're looking for. To save 10% month over month, knowing you're going to be here, take the savings right now and lock yourself into it, because it's not going to move until you cancel that subscription. So if it's just basketball you're looking for, Tip-Off 24 is your promo code. If you want access to everything we have, the promo code is EVERYTHING. Either way, links are in chat right now, or they're in the description of this video. Click it, takes you directly to the sign up page. You can get in immediately. And I promise you, I will be selling that NBA package heavily during the NBA strategy show this coming Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, where you do get the bonus of getting Dave Lockrid for one NBA show. I don't get to make him do very much while the NFL is going on, but making Laffy show up for the first NBA show, that has to happen. The two of us need to get our NBA on, because then I don't get to talk to him again for months. I won't see Laffy again on a stream, barring coverage on random days, until like January. So you get Laffy and I on Tuesday of this week. Wally Balls, no more rise and grind. Now, we pulled the plug on the process like halfway through last year. I can't handle 6:30 every morning. It really ruins my life by the end of the NBA season. So now that we've moved some stuff around, shipped out some dead weight, you might say, shout out to those boys. I've got the strategy show solo at 9, so it's basically the same show. We just pushed it 2.5 hours into the future. Let's build a new lineup. Let's build a new lineup, shall we? All right, guys, I need another captain. Do not tell me Tank Bigsby. I need a captain that isn't Bisbee. No shade sent. There's no shade. Just, we had to move forward. We wanted to ship more money, and we had people here that didn't ship enough money. Oh, man. All right, let's see. Drake May, Thomas, Douglas, May, Captain Crunch, Ingram, Johnson. Bob the Builder goes with Bank Tigsby. Almost got me with that one. All right, let's go Evan Ingram. So I guess we're staying on the Jag side. Now, I have, and I'm willing to use this for you guys. That's how much I love you. That's how much I love this show. I'm willing to share the lineup, the only lineup that I have with Evan Ingram right now. We're going to test it out. This is probably going to paint me in a bad light, and you guys are going to mock me, and then I'm going to win all the money, and you'll have no words to say to me. Evan Ingram, captain. I'm nervous. We're going right back to my boy, Ernest Johnson. We're getting Drake May. This will probably be the more controversial thing. We're going to grab the Pats D. And then we'll get Ramondre Stevenson and Trevor Lawrence. Evan Ingram, captain. 3-3 build. Eric says this is the Gabe Davis game now that no one's talking about him. As long as he catches the ball. Oh, baby. Oh, I just churn out 100% ROIs like it is my job. It's a good thing it is my job, because then I would be doing a different job, not doing that job, and still churning out 100% ROIs. I'm exceptional at this, guys. Exceptional. We should have a show where I just build lineups for 8 hours a day. Why not? Like the QVC of lineup building. I'm just out here selling ladders to housewives. Eric, to be fair, the Sims should say something better than great lineup. I'm surprised it doesn't pop up and say like, oh, I think Josh is using it. These scores are disproportionate to everybody else that does. Oh, Josh Nork. That's a great question. And I do want to do this because that's the perfect way to use this tool. So Josh Nork asks the question, Josh, can you do this same lineup and swap out Pats for Jags? Absolutely. That's the perfect way to use this tool. So we're doubling the ownership from the Jags, but we're also gaining 1.8 fantasy points. So it's an interesting dynamic. Just to let you guys know what's going on for the rest of the day. Josh has got to stick together. See, I pushed down a lot of my Josh talent and shot it over to Josh York. Yes, I shot him my Josh talent. That came out the wrong way. Oh, phrasing again. Anyway, Greg Ehrenberg is coming up next at 9:30. He's going to build some lineups for the main slate for you guys for a half hour. Then Laffy and Ben will be back at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. For the NBA Deeper Dive. They are going to break down every single game that exists. If you are looking for details on today's main slate, look no further. Laffy and Ben will have you covered. And then at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Eric Lindquist and Matt Kajeski for Live Before Lock. We have 3.5 more hours of live coverage. You don't have to turn this stream off at all. Leave it up, leave it open, put it on your TV and make it easy. This is the coverage you're looking for Week 7 in the NFL. Bruh, if you know what the Sims think is great, it's easy to build lineups that the Sims think are great. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's a true statement. And yet, a lot of people not doing that correctly. A lot of people not doing that correctly. If it were so easy, everyone would do it. All righty. What else do we got here? So we built an awesome lineup. We built the awesome Evan Ingram lineup. We hooked it up with the swap of defenses. Now we need one more. And this is the one where we need to get weird. So chat, I need help one last time. 2 things. 1, I need you to hit the like button right now. We need to run that number up as high as we possibly can. I get a lot of satisfaction of turning this one over to Laffy at 10 o'clock with a sizable like number. The only way that we could do that is if you guys get started right now. 2, I need a ridiculous captain. I need the guy that, not like this will never happen, but we need a unique captain here. Who do we got? All right, a lot of polks, a lot of booties. I don't know how to say that guy's name. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, but that's the dude we're grabbing. I want the booty guy. All right, we're putting the booty in the captain spot. Can't put the captain in the booty, but you can put the booty in the captain. All right. Do I have any lineups? Okay, we got one shot here. We're gonna get this booty character. We're gonna try Cam Little. So we're gonna get a kicker in there. Now we can get Drake May. Now we can get Trevor Lawrence. Now we can get Ramondre Stevenson. Now we can get our boy Tank Bigsby. $400 on the table with the booty. I found you, Miss New Booty. Get it together. Bring it back to me. Hit the Players Club. About a month or two. Oh, that ain't it. That ain't it. We didn't get the booty right. How would you guys want to change this lineup? That's my final question to you before we turn this one over to Greg. How do we improve this and give ourselves a better shot? Because negative 15% is not going to get it done. It feels like we're being relatively inefficient with the double quarterbacks, but I could be wrong. If we really need to acquire fantasy points, if I get rid of Ramondre and switch to D'Ernest Johnson, that might actually be enough discount. That leaves too much on the table, I think. %9.6%. That's what my wife rated my sexy time. Ooh, okay. So the D'Ernest Johnson swap is not the swap that we're looking for. I couldn't have built much worse of a lineup on purpose. What I'm seeing out of this, and this is going to be the way that we're going to end this and turn it over to Greg Ehrenberg. These are the learning experiences that I like to have when I'm using this single lineup sim. Because there is usually some sort of path to every relevant player having a decent lineup with him in that spot. So in this case, this captain lineup. The guys that are most popular are going to be the guys that have the most options to create high sim ROI lineups. The band of lineups that you can build with the booty at the captain spot is very narrow if you're trying to hunt down those bigger edges. And I think that's what we're seeing here. It's going to be very hard to hunt down a lineup with a high sim ROI with him in the captain spot, but moving him to the flex and just simply taking a Trevor Lawrence or a Drake May in that captain spot is probably going to be the way that you take that lineup from being negative 40% like we saw all the way into the 40 plus range where you feel pretty good about it. That's usually where I'm trying to hit something in that like 30 to 40 range or upwards of 100 once you know that you can get to it. That's where we're at. I've got my lineups in right now. I'm hoping to walk away from this showdown slate with a couple extra shekels in my pocket. We got to load up the old bankroll for Tuesday, baby. 2 basketball games on Tuesday, full slate on Wednesday. But the thing that you guys care about the most is the NFL, and it's happening right now. 4 straight hours of NFL coverage, and you don't have to leave for this YouTube channel at all. It stays right here, and it never stops. Greg Ehrenberg coming up next, building lineups in the full single sim. Honestly, one of these days I'm going to stick around and show him how it's done, but I'll let him give you the goods today. Enjoy, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. It is week 7 of the NFL season. We're actually almost halfway done with the season. It's gone pretty quick, this NFL regular season. And what we're going to be doing here is we're breaking down everything you guys need to know to build some winning DFS lineups for the weekend. So if you can do me a favor as you're watching my portion of the show, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. A little bit after me, there's going to be the deep dive with Ben Raza and Walfie. They're going to be going through all of the games on a game-by-game basis, let you know any of the injuries in those spots, individual matchups, everything from that perspective. Then after them, we're going to have Matt Gajewski and Eric Lindquist on, and they're going to bring you up to lock with any late breaking news, what their exposures are looking like, and anything else that might change as we lead up to lock. But before we get there, Jordan Klein and myself, we're going to build some lineups here using the single lineup Sims tool, and we're going to show you guys just some good cores for lineups to be building for the day. But the first thing we do here is we check out the projections for the week, and I think this is the least amount of value we've had on any slate this year. Actually, I know this is the least amount of value we've had on any slate this year, but by a really wide margin. It's a 10-game slate. There haven't been too many injuries. And as a result, it is really hard to find the cheap guys to go to. We don't have any like Bucky Irving, who's a backup that's stepping in and is a really good points per dollar value. But this is what we're looking at. So starting at the QB position, we'll sort by the projections here. And yeah, Jordan's got it up right there. So you see that we do have Jaden Daniels projected just crazy well. 25 fantasy point projection for Jaden Daniels taking on the Carolina Panthers. He is clearing every other QB in our projections by 5 fantasy points. The closest to him, it is Geno Smith, projected for just over 20 fantasy points at 20.24. And they've got a handful of guys just under 20. Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. All of these guys are really grouped together behind Jaden Daniels and then Geno Smith. And then if we sort by the ownership projection, Jordan. Yeah, so now as far as the ownership goes at QB, once again, a lot of ownership going to Jaden Daniels correlates with how well he's projecting in this matchup. Nearly 20% ownership to Jaden Daniels, and over on FanDuel, he's actually over 20% owned. So that'll be a discussion point. We'll try to build some Jaden Daniels lineups. So we'll look if those ones are projecting out to be positive ROI despite all of the ownership. Then you got Geno Smith, 11% owned, and then nobody else all that popular at the quarterback position. Sam Darnold, 8% owned, Kirk Cousins, 7%, Daniel Jones just under 7%. That's how crappy of a slate it is. Daniel Jones is the 5th most popular QB on the entire slate. Now, it's not a ton of ownership or anything, but at $5,400, just we're starved for value on the slate. So people are clicking on the Daniel Jones button more often than they probably would want to or really would on any other recent slate. Let's look at the running backs next, Jordan. Yeah, and once again, you see here at the running back position, just not a ton of guys that project extremely well, and certainly not cheap guys that are projecting all that well. Kyren Williams leads the way, 21.43 fantasy point projection. If you are looking to spend up for a running back, in our projections, the guy to go to is Kyren Williams. The question is just going to become how easy is it to get up to him, considering the lack of value on the slate. And then next, we've got Bijan Robinson at 18.61 fantasy points. And we're probably never going to get Bijan Robinson priced in the mid 6K range ever again. That's where he was at last week. I think it was $6,600 off the top of my head. And he just destroyed the slate, just under 100 rushing yards, scored a couple of touchdowns. So now we've got him a little bit priced up against the Seattle Seahawks, but still 18.61 fantasy point projection for him. Saquon Barkley taking on his former team in the Giants. He's up next at 17.5 fantasy points. And then you got a handful of other guys here as well. The most notable ones, just under 17 fantasy points for Aaron Jones at $6,500. And then Brian Robinson, 16.68 fantasy points at $6,400. So those are a couple of guys that you could get to who are not crazy expensive, that do still project decently well at the running back position. I do think the mid-range is going to be really popular for this slate and important considering the lack of value. And then if we go over to the ownership, you'll see here, Chuba Hubbard is the one who's pulling the most ownership, 27% projected ownership to Chuba Hubbard. And that's just because of what we talked about before, people gravitating towards that mid-range with a lack of cheap options to go to. And with us looking at our projections, just we saw before, we have Brian Robinson as well as Aaron Jones, each projected for more fantasy points than Chuba Hubbard, but being less popular. Those look like a couple of good pivot spots to be getting to. Chuba Hubbard, the 27% ownership. You got Kyren Williams at 21%, 19% for Bijan Robinson, 19% for Aaron Jones, and a couple of other guys that are pulling some ownership as you go down, but not really all that significant. 15% to Brian Robinson, 11% to Josh Jacobs, 10% to Kenneth Walker. Now let's move over to the wide receivers. Yeah, and I see right here in the chat as we go over the wideouts, Jason Running in the chat saying, so in NBA terms, we're going mid builds, no stars and scrubs. Yeah, it is going to be really difficult to go stars and scrubs on this slate because there aren't really that many stars I like, nor that many scrubs that I like. We'll find a couple of value ones as we build out some lineups in the single lineup sims here, but yeah, nothing that I would consider like a smash play or anything that I want to commit too many a high percentage of my bankroll to in my individual lineups today, just because there aren't players that are projecting all that well for cheap. But at wide receiver, we've got Justin Jefferson as the lone wideout, project for more than 20 fantasy points. Then you got Drake London and Amon-Ra St. Brown, each at 18. Then Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors, Stephon Diggs, all at 17. And all of those guys, once again, pay up options. No cheap wide receivers projecting all that well. Now, if you go to the ownership at wide receiver, once again, you'll see no cheap wide receivers pulling any kind of meaningful ownership. And even ownership in general, really flat at the wide receiver position. Drake London is the only one over 20% owned at 23%. You got Justin Jefferson, 19% owned. Jordan Whittington, kind of popular at $4,800, 17% owned, but 13 fantasy point projection. He's just kind of like the best of the cheapish wide receivers, but still nothing crazy in terms of ownership. And nobody else even more than 15% owned at the wide receiver spot. Now, if we move on over to the tight ends, Jordan, where tight ends starting to look marginally better than it has on some other slates. Travis Kelce, he is in a meaningful position again with Rashee Rice out. We've seen big targets to him the last couple of games. So I think Travis Kelce is back to being the Travis Kelce of a couple of years ago, at least in terms of workload. So we got him at 15.73 fantasy points. The only tight end projecting better, it is Brock Bowers at 17.27. And then you got George Kittle, 13.5 fantasy points. Colby Parkinson, David Njoku, Kyle Pitts, they're each all around 10 fantasy point projection. And then the ownership at the tight end spot, you'll see we've got Colby Parkinson at $3,800, pulling 23% ownership. Brock Bowers, 18% owned. Njoku is at 14.72. Travis Kelce at 12%. But once again, ownership pretty flat at the tight end. This is not going to be a slate where I think we want to build very many lineups, if any, that are two tight end builds just because of how weak the position has been this year. So with all of that said, let's start building ourselves some lineups, Jordan. And we'll start by looking at some of the chalkier builds over on DraftKings. If you guys have any questions, whether you're in the Discord chat, if you are a Stokastic sub, make sure you're in our Discord channel. You could at me over the course of the show. I'll be looking for any kind of messages we get there, and I'll be answering those. Or if you're on YouTube and you want to leave a super chat, we've had a handful of shows over the course of the year where we've done this segment where people have submitted their lineups. We plugged it into the single lineup sims just to see what the ROI looks like. But let's start at QB, and let's just right away go to the most popular QB on DK, Jordan, Jaden Daniels at $7,600. And I like Jaden Daniels for the slate. I just don't like him quite as much as the field does because the price point is a little bit of a concern for me, as well as him just being super popular on DraftKings and FanDuel. So I'm certainly going to have exposure to him. He's going to be one of my most rostered QBs, but ultimately I think I'm going to be a little bit underweight to the field on what Jaden Daniels' ownership is. But we'll start with him and we'll see, can we make a really chalky lineup and how is it going to project with Jaden Daniels? I think the most sensible stacking option with him is Terry McLaurin at $6,800. So we want plugging him in at wide receiver, Jordan. Yeah, so Terry McLaurin, and we could just do a single stack with Jaden Daniels. I do think this is a really good slate to build a little bit more double and triple stacks, just because if we're not going to be creating upside from a points per dollar perspective with a lack of value, well, then we could do it with game stacks and just really heavily correlating our players and create more upside that way. I don't think you necessarily have to with Jaden Daniels because he does have a lot of rushing upside, but let's go Zach Ertz anyway at a tight end, $3,900. I don't think Zach Ertz is a terrible tight end option for the slate at all. All right, so if we got Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz, probably want one run back in this lineup, and I'm going to point out somebody who's projecting pretty well in our data, at least relative to ownership. And this isn't somebody who is like a comfortable click in lineups or anything like that, but Jalen Coker is the flat min. We've got Jalen Coker at just $3K, and I know what a lot of you guys are probably thinking. It is, who is Jalen Coker? So Jalen Coker is a rookie wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. So he works as a run back in this lineup. And he's somebody who has gotten at least a good amount of run since the injury to Adam Thielen. So the last couple of games, we saw 4 catches on 4 targets for 68 yards for Jalen Coker. And then last week, 3 targets, 3 catches for 30 yards. So it's not like this is somebody who we're expecting to go out and score 20 or 30 fantasy points. But in the interest of trying to make this lineup not uber chalky, considering we already have a somewhat popular Terry McLaurin in the lineup, a somewhat popular Zach Ertz, and then a very popular Jaden Daniels, also a expensive Jaden Daniels. If we plug Jalen Coker in here, we're getting a guy who's very low owned, that's also very cheap, and that is going to make our lineups a little bit more workable from a salary perspective. So I will put him in there just to get some correlation and save some salary. And now let's look for our running backs, and we'll take Brian Robinson out of the picture because we're focusing more on the Washington passing game in this lineup. But let's see if we go to Aaron Jones at running back, because we got, what, $5,700 in salary there. So if we go Aaron Jones, we could also go Chuba Hubbard and make this a very heavy game stack, but it's also a lot of ownership going there. I'd prefer to leave Chuba Hubbard out. We'll just have Coker as the one run back from the Panthers side of the game. So let's see, what do we have? 55.50 left there. So don't want to go too expensive at running back. We could plug in Tony Pollard at 6,300. We saw Tony Pollard. Well, in general, Tony Pollard's definitely seen more of an uptick in workload. Tajay Spears being banged up, that's contributed to it. But even when Spears has been in there, it does look like the Titans are starting to lean a little bit more towards Tony Pollard. And then Will Levis being out today. I know it's Mason Rudolph starting at QB for the Titans, but I think anything's an upgrade over Will Levis at this point. So let's go Tony Pollard. Now we've got a 53. Okay, so let's go and plug in a cheap defense now, Jordan. And I don't even really care that much which cheap defense it is that we go to. But let's plug in... let's just go the Browns defense at 2,500 against the Bengals. At least the Bengals will throw the ball a bunch. Not a defense I'm dying to play, but there's never really a defense that I'm like dying to play anyway. So yeah, go Browns defense. They're $2,500. That'll give us room to spend up at that flex spot. Oh, you're in there? Okay. All right. All right. So we've got the flex and one wide receiver spot left. And what is that? $5,700 left per spot, or 67, Jordan? All right. Comes across a little blurry over Zoom sometimes. All right. So $6,700. Let's see. What's looking good in the mid-range at wide receiver that fits in here? We could go to Malik Neighbors at 7,500, Drake London 6,900. We could go cheap with Jordan Whittington at $4,800, then spend up somewhere else. Yeah, let's try that. Let's go Whittington at 4,800. And then that gives us, what's the number there, Jordan? All right. Well, then my favorite spend up option on the slate, who fits perfectly into this lineup, it is Justin Jefferson at $8,500. So we could go and plug him in. I'm not like super enthused to have lineups that have Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson that don't have Sam Darnold, but at least for this lineup, it fit in while we were building it, and don't want to spend like the entire show trying to perfect this one lineup. So let's see if this ends up rating out well, despite a pretty heavy ownership there on Jaden Daniels. Yeah, pretty solid. Nothing crazy, but 45.1% expected ROI on this lineup. So I definitely think we could do better with a little bit more contrarian builds, but still, you can see that we can make lineups that are expected to be plus EV with some of the chalk there. But let's see what we have from YouTube. Yeah, nothing in particular popping up right now. So let's start another lineup build, Jordan, but let's make a more contrarian one here. So we've seen what we could do with a really, really chalky lineup, but now let's try to make one that's a little bit more on the contrarian end. And overall, not that this is like the most contrarian. Actually, let's go pretty contrarian. Other side of the Washington game, let's go to Andy Dalton at $5,200. If the Commanders score a lot of points, could certainly be a situation where we're going to have to see the Panthers throw a lot to keep up. And I also think Chuba Hubbard, he's somebody, especially with Brooks remaining out at least for one more game, he's going to be involved in the pass game as well as the run game. And if they're trailing a bunch, it might even be better than for Chuba Hubbard to be able to get some of those PPR points. So let's go Andy Dalton at QB. And now for players to combine him with, let's go with Chuba Hubbard at running back. I don't mind Chuba Hubbard paired with Andy Dalton. And then at wide receiver, let's plug in Deontay Johnson at $6,600. And then we'll go to Brian Robinson as a run back. So what I like about getting to Brian Robinson here is that this is getting us a little bit of leverage off of Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders passing game, where if it is Brian Robinson who scores the touchdowns this week, well, those are fantasy points that are going to be coming away from Jaden Daniels. So this is where we're getting some leverage there, but then also we're still getting exposure to this game in correlation with the Panthers passing game. So we've got here also like a relatively cheap stack that we've got going, which is going to be really valuable to us on a slate like this one where it's hard to find value. So now at wide receiver, let's go to Drake London at $6,900. I do really like Drake London quite a bit for this slate. I think about appropriately owned at the 24% ownership mark that we went over before. And when I run everything through the Sims, just using our data, I come in a little bit overweight to the field on Drake London, despite all the ownership going to him. So I think that he is a warranted popular piece. And then as far as another wide receiver to plug in here, let's see. We've got 4,600s. We might want to go cheap again. Here's somebody who I think is going a little bit overlooked by the field right now. Go to Juju Smith-Schuster at 4K, Jordan. So last week, we saw or I should say last game for the Chiefs, Juju Smith-Schuster kind of came out of nowhere. We knew there was going to be no Rashee Rice. We figured it was going to mean more targets for Travis Kelce, but Juju ended up being the number one wide receiver for the Chiefs. He was targeted 8 times. He had 7 catches for 130 yards. I would not be shocked if Juju Smith-Schuster is the number one wide receiver for the Chiefs going forward. The last time that he was on the Chiefs, he was second on the team in catches, targets, and yards, only behind Travis Kelce. So I don't know that it's for sure going to happen, but I'm willing to take shots on it when he's only 4K. He's projected for single-digit ownership. And then also, it's a slate where we don't have that much value, not to keep harping on the same point. But we've got a guy that I think is legitimate upside for cheap here. It's a swing that I'm willing to take in GPP. So go to Juju Smith-Schuster, a wide receiver. All right. Gives us $4,800 left here now. Seeing some people in the chat who are also making some suggestions for lineups. Texan stack, talking about some Eagles. Brandon bring up Malik Neighbors. Yeah, we'll see. For this, I think we're just going to have to go cheap because we've got $4,800 left for the tight end, the flex, and then the defense. Let's go to defense now, Jordan, just so that we could plug something in here and get that as a placeholder so we know what kind of salary we're working with. I'll just go to the Rams defense at 3K. I think that's a reasonable one to be playing against the Raiders. It's one of the defense that showed up when I was running the Sims before. So just go Rams at 3K. QB situation's a mess for the Raiders. All right, cool. All right, $5,700 for the tight end and the flex. So let's see, 5,700. Let's go to, I know some people in the chat were asking about Grant Calcaterra. I do think he's a reasonable option for this slate, considering that we've got Dallas Goedert out. I don't know that we need to go that cheap for this lineup, considering we have the $5,700. Let's go a little bit more expensive. Plug in David Njoku at $4,100. I do think there's potential for some value out of the Browns passing game. I know that's terrifying because Deshaun Watson has been as terrible as anybody could possibly be this year, but they just traded away Amari Cooper, and that does create a void in terms of target share in the offense. So I do think that makes guys like Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, David Njoku, they're all cheap, and I think they are viable for this slate. So let's plug in David Njoku at tight end, and now that gives us 7,300, Jordan. All right, so who projects the best of everybody that's left now? Bijan Robinson? All right. I might want to go a little bit cheaper or more expensive at tight end, actually, because I don't really want to build a lineup right now that has Bijan Robinson and Drake London in it. So how about instead of Njoku at tight end, let's go to... All right, let's plug him in. Let's plug in Calcaterra at 3,200. Let's see what that opens up for us at the flex. Cool. And we could plug in Kyron Williams then, who's going to correlate with the Rams defense. All right, that works. So this is going to be a bit more contrarian with Andy Dalton at QB. Let's see how it's looking. Also, if you guys haven't done it yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also NBA season. All right, 33.8% sim ROI. So solid, not quite as good as the chalky Jaden Daniels lineup. So something to take note of there. Jason Running in the chat asking, does the Vikings running back trade and early injury report worry me at all about Aaron Jones? No, I think Aaron Jones should be fine for today. And I don't think Cam Akers is cutting into Aaron Jones' workload in any kind of real significant way. I think they just like Cam Akers as being somebody who has depth. But this week, NBA starts. I'm sure that pretty much all of you in chat are aware. NBA season is going to be starting. NBA, my personal favorite DFS sport. And if you guys remember, we ran a really aggressive promo at the start of the NFL season. We're going to be doing the same thing for NBA, where if you guys sign up with the promo code TIPOFF24, get access to our core NBA package for just $1 all the way through October 29th. And this is going to be through October 29th, whether you sign up today, tomorrow, Tuesday, or on October 29th. So you want to sign up as early as possible just because it's going to give you guys the most amount of time to play around with the tools, even ahead of the season. And there is no downside to it. It's not like you lose a day of the subscription. Whenever it is that you go ahead and sign up, you're going to get access through October 29th for just $1. If you sign up using the link that we have down below in the YouTube description box, promo code's already loaded in, so you don't have to worry about anything. If you're going to the site, though, the promo code is TIPOFF24. And our NBA core package, it includes our player projections, our ownership projections, our single lineup sim that we are going to have for NBA this season as well, our late swap tool. So you could do late swaps using sims on our site. It also includes our sims tool. So you could build out all your lineups on our site and simulate them. So if you guys are looking to play NBA DFS this year, you're not going to find a better deal than getting access to our projections and our sims for just $1. Link is down below in the YouTube description box. And yeah, Jordan's showing the new packages that we've got there on screen as well. But let's go and build a FanDuel lineup now. We've got about 10 minutes left to go here before we hand it over to the guys on the deep dive. So let's check out FanDuel. And I said I'm going to be underweight to the field on Jaden Daniels over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, where he is even more expensive and even more popular, I'm finding it really difficult to get up to the ownership of Jaden Daniels. He's $9,100 and pulling over 20% ownership on FanDuel. For cash games, yeah, go and play him. For GPPs, you get some exposure as well, but it's looking like I'm going to be around 10% on Jaden Daniels, which it's not an insignificant amount. It's just not nearly the over 20% the field has. So instead, let's go a little bit cheaper at the quarterback position and maybe not with one of the QBs we've already built a lineup around over on DK. So let's see, who are the cheaper QBs that I like on FanDuel? There's Sam Darnold, there's Kirk Cousins, there's Geno Smith. I think those guys are all viable options. Let's see. Anybody in chat have a strong opinion? What do we want to do? Do we want to build a lineup here for FanDuel with Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, or Sam Darnold? These are the three QBs I like the most over on FanDuel. See if anybody, whoever answers first with a strong opinion, will build in there, because I think all of them pretty equal in terms of ones that I want to be getting to. I have all of them in around 18% of lineups that I've built so far. Cousins, Jones, Geno, Cousins. All right, handful of Cousins. Let's go Kirk Cousins, Jordan. Kirk Cousins, $7,200 taking on the Seattle Seahawks. And we've seen big upside from Kirk Cousins, over 500 passing yards just a couple of weeks ago from Cousins. And if you have Cousins plugged in there, I think it's very reasonable to go Drake London as one of the stacking options. And on FanDuel, I don't think you need to double stack Kirk Cousins just because you only get the half-point PPR bonus. So I'm cool with it just being a single stack. You could go to Kyle Pitts as well at $5,900 if you really wanted to get to somebody else. You've also got Darnell Mooney is $6,300. Ray McLeod is $5,500. I think all of them are serviceable options. Probably Darnell Mooney is my second overall favorite stacking option from Atlanta, but let's just go Drake London and Kirk Cousins in this lineup for the stack. And now at running back, here's a running back that I think makes some sense on FanDuel, a little bit on DraftKings as well, but he shows up in more of my FanDuel lineups. You don't feel great about it because he's kind of dog shit, but Trey Sermon is $5,900 on FanDuel, Jordan. And when you look at Trey Sermon, the biggest concern, or the biggest question I have about him is, what is his involvement in the passing game going to be? Because if you look at Trey Sermon, who is going to be getting the lion's share of the workload with Jonathan Taylor out again, 2 weeks ago against the Jaguars, he was terrible from an efficiency standpoint. 10 carries for 38 yards, 6 catches for 25 yards. But because he had the 6 catches and he scored a touchdown because he was getting all the goal line work, you got a decent fantasy game out of Trey Sermon, scored almost 20 fantasy points. But to follow it up, he got 18 carries against the Titans last week, but didn't get any targets in the passing game. So I wish I knew exactly how many targets Trey Sermon was going to get, but for a lower owned GPP option, I don't mind him at a sub 6K price point to save some salary on FanDuel. So go Trey Sermon, and let's plug in Aaron Jones as well at $7,200. Yeah, so Aaron Jones, that's going to take both of our running back spots up there. And now if we go to wide receiver, let's see, what do we want to do at wide out? We've got, do we want to run back here from Seattle? Yeah, we could plug in. I don't think we could go too expensive. DK Metcalf is $8,100. So that could be a little bit pricey to get to, but we got Tyler Lockett is $5,800. Jackson Smith-Njigba is $6,100. I don't really have a strong lean between Lockett or JSN. So let's just go Lockett, considering that he's $300 less expensive and also is a little bit less popular. So Tyler Lockett at wide receiver here. Yes, now we got Cousins, Sermon, Aaron Jones. We've got, okay, so a few spots left here. I'm doing pretty well on the salary side. So let's see. Let's go to, people were asking us to put him in a lineup before, and I do like him on the slate. Malik Neighbors, he's going to be back for the Giants. Massive start to the year, then got derailed a little bit, had the concussion, missed a couple of games, but he's clearly been somebody who Daniel Jones just likes to lock onto. We have seen just absurd volume numbers for Malik Neighbors. It's been a minute since I looked at his target numbers because he was out the last couple of games, but here we have it. So Malik Neighbors, these are his targets in all the games this year. First game of the season, 7 targets. That was the low watermark, but it was also the first game of his NFL career. Follows it up. 18 targets against Washington, 12 targets against Cleveland, 15 targets against Dallas. I think we could pretty confidently say that we should expect double-digit targets for Malik Neighbors. I like him on both FanDuel and DraftKings, so let's go ahead and plug him in. Also in chat, I'm seeing people asking, why is Aaron Jones so popular this week against the Lions? Yeah, so a couple of things. First off, massive total in the game. It's expected to be really high scoring, so should be a lot of touchdowns scored on both sides of that game. But also, Aiden Hutchinson being out for the Lions, he's arguably been the best defensive player in the entire NFL. Now, certainly he's more impactful in the pass defense than in the run defense, but just him being out of the mix for Detroit, it overall makes their defense a lot weaker. So you assume that it's going to mean that Minnesota is going to be able to move the ball a little bit easier. That's just going to create more scoring opportunities for Aaron Jones. So that's why Aaron Jones, mostly just due to the overall game environment as opposed to the actual matchup itself. Should be a lot of points scored there. Let's see. So now we've got tight end to fill out. All right. So tight ends over on FanDuel. Let's plug in Travis Kelce at $7,100. We haven't put him into a lineup yet. We had a Juju lineup over on DK. We didn't do a Travis Kelce lineup. So you got Kelce at $7,100. You could also go to Brock Bowers at $7K. For our data, Bowers projects better. So we are slightly hamstringing what our sim ROI is going to be by putting Kelce in instead of Brock Bowers. But I personally like Kelce, but just be aware that if you put Brock Bowers in, you would be getting higher ROI results out of our sims here. So we got the defense and the flex left now. At defense, plug in. I just go to the Rams again. I guess Rams are $4,100 over on FanDuel. All right, 69. Who projects the best? 6,900, Jordan. Brandon Ayuk. Okay, I don't hate Brandon Ayuk as a little bit of a not that he's crazy contrarian, but I do get overweight to him on both FanDuel and DraftKings for the slate. You got the matchup against the Chiefs as well, which means we're getting a mini game stack with Travis Kelce and Brandon Ayuk. So that's a little bit of correlation to like. So let's plug in Brandon Ayuk and see what that does to the lineup. I don't hate this build. And then after, just to try it, Jordan, take Kelce out and put Bowers in after we do the sim ROI for this one. We'll just see what it does for a difference in sim ROI if we did Brock Bowers instead of Travis Kelce. All right, almost there. So we didn't get the great lineup notification. That's one of the more recent updates to our single lineup sim. Just we see people all the time ask like, hey, I got this sim ROI. Is that a good lineup? Is it not a good lineup? And now we've got something where basically in the back end, we figure out the percentiles of all the lineups, and then it'll tell you whether it's a bad lineup, whether it's a great lineup, or like with you're on the right track. So right there, it gave me a not the great lineup notification. But maybe if we switch out Kelce to Brock Bowers, that'll change the equation a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Boosted the sim ROI a little bit, and that made it more in the threshold of being a high percentile lineup. And that is going to do it for me here today, guys. But don't go anywhere. We got a few more hours of football coverage. Deep dive coming up next, Lofty and Ben Raza. Then after that, live before lock with Eric Lindquist and Matt Gajewski. So if you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and don't forget, if you're looking to sign up and play NBA DFS this year, link is down below in the YouTube description box. Just $1 with the promo code TIPOFF24. So go and check that out. Tuesday, we're going to have full coverage of the NBA slate, strategy show in the morning, deep dive, live before lock. And then after that, Josh and I are also going to be going on playback to watch the games alongside with you guys. Other than that, good luck on this NFL Sunday. See you guys later. Peace out.
Why do you ask?
Just because there was a play in that game that I've never seen. The refs literally responded to mob mentality.
Explain.
They threw shit on the field after a bad call, and then they changed the call.
Oh, so you can just throw shit on the field? Hey, good morning. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Deeper Dive. Week 7 already. Got a game going on across the pond. Patriots moving the ball again. Doug Peterson, they might leave him in London. I'm not kidding. He might be gone before they even board the plane.
You would hope.
I mean, it's at a point now where he's completely lost this team. It's still first quarter, maybe second quarter. I'm not sure, but I would assume still first. They're done. There's a guy that said they needed a culture change after last week. It's like, dude, the culture change starts with you. What are you talking about? The culture change might be that you aren't there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the players, they're not even, it's got to that point where they're like, yeah, no, we quit. Like,
You know, as an Eagles fan, I can confidently say that the flukiest, most unlikely Super Bowl win ever was the Doug Peterson, Nick Foles year. And I'll forever love them for that. But I mean, come on, that team, no business being there. It was just one of those sun runs, you know, it happens. But here's Doug Peterson. They just stink. They stink.
Sun run today.
Yeah, well, they're going to need it. Yep. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. 10 games today. Got deeper dive, then we turn it over to Live Before Lock. After this, that's Eric and Matt Gajeski will take you all the way up to lock. So make sure to stick around for all of that. We've had weeks recently where just so much value has opened up that you haven't needed to do anything crazy. You and I were actually going over one of my lineups last week from the Power Suite that I was like, yeah, we had a shot. And I showed you, asked just to see the lineup. I showed you. And I looked, I was like, wow, both of us. Like, that's actually a really simple, like easy looking build. You know, I don't know how many of them you're going to get today.
Yeah, it's not really opening up. I've been playing around, ran a couple, sim runs before the show, and I'm not getting, you said this to me unprompted that it might be like a double tight end situation because I am starved for value. I want to pay up for some of these quarterbacks. I want to go get the Justin Jeffersons of the world. It's not that easy to do. So this is going to be a fascinating slate. Obviously, there's injuries all over the place, but I agree. I was hoping some really cheap value would open up at running back or wide receiver, and I would say that's basically just not happening so far.
Jordan Whittington's probably the best you're going to get right now with Cooper Kupp being doubtful, but he's not that cheap. Or if you want to go to Jalen Coker for Carolina, you can always go to the old Jalen Coker for Carolina against Washington today. Might not be that crazy.
I mean, that is really getting down there. Jalen Coker, okay. Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, you are going to be starved for options. Just the way it is. You're going to be starved for options. And Jalen Coker, look, there's very little that should excite you about this fella, but 7 targets over his last 3 games. He's been involved. He's on the field. They're probably playing from behind as 9.5-point dogs against the, vulnerable secondary for the Washington Commanders. I'm just saying, this is what we've been, this is what it's come down to.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about that guy. Ironically, some of the, the tight end value is coming from maybe Carolina's just going to provide all the value for us, but yeah, it's been a hell of a week, and obviously there's been trades. There's just a lot of new wrinkles to this slate for week 7.
Ready to get into it?
Well, let's get into it.
As always, very happy to have you guys with us. Thanks for spending your morning here on the Stokastic YouTube channel. If you don't mind, it's Sunday morning. You know the drill. Atone for your sins. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Yeah. Just take a second. Subtle reminder, we're all busy people, but it's done, it's over with, and then we move on. And as Ben will tell you, it's free to subscribe. Right?
That's true. People may be tripped up. You just press that button. No information, no nothing. You're just in business. So you just press subscribe. And that's why we have 100,000 subs, because of my intuitions.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong. By the way, let me just make sure of this.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
Okay.
We never switched over the title or the thumbnail, did we, Jordan? Who usually does that? All right.
You're on top of things. That completely went over my head. Good job.
I'm always on top of things, man.
Well, I don't want to be associated with the Jaguars. I have a reputation. I wouldn't be on this stream with the description talking about the Jaguars. I want to talk about the real games.
Yeah, let's do it then, because we got 10 of them. Ah, man, is it not the wheelhouse, though, the 10? I say it all the time.
10's beautiful.
It's the best. I mean, my favorite slate of the year is Thanksgiving. I don't know if I've ever profited on Thanksgiving, though.
That's a Ponzi scheme, because I would say the same thing. I say that, first of all, it's not even close to 10 games. It's, 3 or 4 games.
3.
And it's really one half of one game, the Lions game, because I've never in my whole life made it past that game. And that's always the first game.
The only silver lining is that now, because it used to be where you didn't have showdowns. Like,
oh, thank God.
If it Adrian Peterson. I remember walking the dog before my wife went to the family's house to help him set up. And I was like, all right, I'll be there in a little bit. Cause you and I always do the live before lock or the deeper dive. Right. So I think we do it at like 10:30 to 11:30. They do 11:30 to 12:30 for the first game. I was like, I'll be over. I'm going to walk the dog, do some things. So I'm walking the dog. It's like 12:35 and Adrian Peterson already has 2 touchdowns. And it's like, all right, well, I lost already. And at that point, there were no showdowns to fall back on. You just I think you probably could have done the 2-game 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock games or whatever. But yeah, it was just over. So I look forward to it every year. I love it. I love talking about it. I love playing it. My day's usually over by like 1 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, I mean, if every week was Thanksgiving, Theo Riddick would be Jim Brown. That's just a fact. Like,
I'd also be homeless.
Yeah, well, that's a fair point too. But Theo Riddick, Amir Abdullah, random quarterbacks that I don't remember, like
David Blau.
Yeah, just please. That's. I mean, I was going to say, let's talk about some real things, and then I see the first game's Tennessee. So, I mean, we're on that wavelength anyway. But yeah, 10 games. This is a great slate, and they changed some of the contests, which I'm actually really excited about. I like different price points. You get to mess around with some of the new filters. I don't know if you noticed that, Lofty. They have some different contests today.
Yeah. Let's do it. Do you want to mention anything before we want to talk about that, or did you just want
to? I just like that. I like when they change it up, different structures. There's some like cool 10 maxes, different 5 maxes.
Nice.
And it is because we'll get into the tools, single lineup, some of that stuff. I like when you can test it with new contests.
Adam Schefter just tweeted, Lions assistant head coach and running backs coach Scotty Montgomery said that Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery now want to be called Sonic and Knuckles.
That is that is pretty sick.
See, I had a totally different opinion of that.
Why?
That is, I hate it.
Spoken like a guy on the Tails marketplace, but that's another story for another time.
What do you mean?
What do you mean Tails? That's the third guy.
I hate it. Boy, do I hate it.
Why? Knuckles
Sonic
is clearly
Knuckles?
Gibbs.
You're
right.
You're what?
I said Knuckles would be clearly Gibbs, right?
I couldn't tell you, and I truly couldn't care.
Jesus, I don't even know you.
Truly couldn't care. Sonic and Knuckles. What is this? Like,
go on. What is this? Continue.
What is this? A youth football league? Sonic and Knuckles. What are we doing?
Knuckles, first of all, echidna's wildly underrated animal. If you don't know what an echidna is, you can Google that. But Knuckles is a beast.
All right. Well, you playing Sonic and Knuckles today? No. All right. Let's get into it. I mean, what a silly concept. I almost never mind.
Just go to the first game.
Tennessee and Buffalo. Will Levis is out. Mason Rudolph is It's almost as bad as Larry Sanders wanting people to call him Agent Block. Oh no, that was Hassan Whiteside. Sorry, that was Hassan Whiteside. Decided that he would now be the self-proclaimed agent.
I remember that.
Block. Yeah, Will Levis is out. Mason Rudolph starting. Honestly, it hasn't moved the spread. The spread's actually moved more towards Buffalo. And by the way, thank you for changing that, Jordan. It doesn't make a difference, but you actually can't be worse than Will Levis unless you're Deshaun Watson. And I'd say they're neck and neck for worst quarterbacks in football this year. So I'm not saying that Mason Rudolph is a stellar upgrade by any stretch of the imagination, but it actually couldn't get worse.
No, I mean, again, not to dig into one game, but it seemed pretty clearly to me that Tennessee was okay with giving Mason Rudolph kind of a free run while Levis was banged up in that, whatever, I think it was against Miami. It was a terrible game. And you mentioned it. They have nothing. The season is a complete mess. What I'm interested in, though, is we both thought that maybe Calvin Ridley could get some work last week. He had 8 targets, no receptions. Do you think from Pollard to Ridley to Hopkins to any of these guys, does this really make a difference for them? That's the only question I'm concerned about with Tennessee. I'm not playing Rudolph, obviously.
It probably doesn't make a difference. It probably doesn't. Pollard's the guy. The over on his reception prop at 3.5 is minus 140 in some spots. He's
minus
probably
120 in some spots.
I know I bet it at minus.
So did I.
Yeah, that's actually why I mentioned it, because you're talking about FanDuel, I assume. Yeah,
Put it on tails this morning. Yep.
Yeah, I threw it in last night as well. Minus 140 something on Penny, other books. So it's funny. I actually looked for some of the alts on him, and they didn't look all that good. But he's the only guy I really have interest in here. I don't know what the target share is. Calvin Ridley last week, 8 targets, led the team, was terrible. Now they're talking about getting him more involved on short passes. It's like, oh, really? Really now in week 7? Guy has the second highest depth of target in the league with Will Levis throwing to him, and you thought that was a good plan? Like, oh yeah, let's pay this guy $92 million and just chuck it downfield to him where Levis can't even keep the ball within the sidelines. Whatever. Tony Pollard's the one guy. You know, my only real concern here is if the game gets out of hand and it just gets away from Tony Pollard and he's now only used as a pass catching back. But with that in mind, there has not been a team to allow more receptions, targets, receiving yards to running backs this season than the Buffalo Bills. Outside, of course, no, actually, even with the Saints and Broncos playing, it is still the Bills across the board: targets, receptions, yards, and receiving touchdowns to running backs. No team has allowed more production, and it makes sense given, you know, some of the issues that they have at linebacker position, so on and so forth. But this is still a good pass catching spot for Pollard. I'm hoping he's game script proof here.
It would seem that he would be, just thinking about it in like, what are they going to phase him out of? There's going to be opportunities for him to rack up. He can catch the ball, and they're not going to abandon the run. I mean, he's had serious work in the majority of these games outside of Green Bay, but I think he checks out. The tricky part is both wide receiver and running back, to me, when I look at it, are just super condensed in the price point that Tony Pollard is at, both on DraftKings and FanDuel. So it's more just an opportunity cost thing. You're going to need some decent ownership, no doubt about it, to get leverage. But I do like Pollard today. He's going to be in the pool. And like I said, I not only used him in DFS, but I bet over on his receptions.
Everybody calling me old.
It is just true. A bad take.
But it's not, though, and I'll tell you why. Because if someone gave them that nickname, okay, I'd be fine with it. But to sit down and be like, okay, what can we, how about Sonic and Knuckles? And Montgomery looks at him and goes, I like that. And they come to their running backs coach and they go, Scotty, from now on, we are no longer Jameer and David. We are Sonic and Knuckles. Like, the whole process of that playing out to me is awful. So it's not the nicknames themselves. It's the fact that self-titling yourself, to me, is a big time no. That's all. It's a violation. Hey, listen, say what you want. It's not the nicknames themselves. It's the origin and how they arrived at that.
That's different. That's totally different. I couldn't agree more. There are no self-appointed nicknames that are good. That's correct. That's a blanket statement.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. That's why I equated it to the Hassan Whiteside thing.
That's all.
And it didn't stick either, by the way. Like, you know, the broadcast team will come in and be like, these guys are now known as Sonic and Knuckles, and no one's going to do it.
Yeah, and they'll never say it again. I don't disagree with any of that. But yeah, looking back to reality, I don't have much to say about Tennessee. It doesn't seem like a team I want to make Jordan. It doesn't seem like I want to make a hero call. And thank you for making me Knuckles. I just have Pollard, and that's it.
Like, do you remember Earth, Wind, and Fire?
No.
No? I'm not talking about the band.
No, I know that. Yeah, who the hell was that? There's 3 of them?
Jacobs, Derek Ward, and Ahmad Bradshaw for the Giants.
Vaguely.
And remember, around the same time, what was the Carolina Panthers? The 1-2 punch. They had the nicknames too.
I'm not up on running back nicknames. The Untouchables, Lee Suggs and Kevin Jones from Virginia Tech about 20 years ago. That's the extent of what I got.
You only liked the ones where I think it was Smash and Dash. Not to say I'm a big fan, but they didn't give it to themselves.
TJ Spiller had one in college, which was.
I'm talking about tandems though.
I know him and the other guy who I forgot had. I think they were Thunder and Lightning. Like everybody.
I really thought Spiller was going to be good.
Yeah, he would have been, but he was on Buffalo.
It's Pollard for me. Yeah, I know.
Pollard for me too. That's Yep.
And then Buffalo, I don't know what to make of Amari Cooper in a spot like this. I tend to kind of pump the brakes in these spots because even if they're active, it's kind of your thing where you talk about you need a lot of you kind of have to stack wins on top of each other before the game even starts. So it's like, does Amari Cooper play? Okay, that's one. Does Amari Cooper get on the field? Or sorry, does he dress? That's one. Does he get on the field? That's another. Is he out there a lot? That's another. And then, like, is he in sync or does he get targeted? And then is he in sync with Josh Allen after being with the team for what, 5 days? It's such an uphill battle trying to get this one right, especially when you're not getting him that cheap. And L'Jarius Sneed is a legitimately good quarterback if Amari Cooper is out there.
You already illustrated it in depth. Just way too many hoops to jump through for a guy that's not cheap. He's a normal price point. The only question I have on Buffalo, nobody is playing Josh Allen today. And I think that's somewhat warranted just given how the slate shaped up. But there is something to me. It seems for a lot of reasons that he may not have to do a lot of work considering they're almost double-digit favorites. But just seeing a Josh Allen that's like potentially only a couple % owned, it did catch my eye. It's Josh Allen. He could have 3 rushing touchdowns.
I know. I think probably the trouble with something like that, and I'm not even saying that it's a big deal, is more so just the idea that like, how much is he going to need to do in a spot like this?
That's the worry, is that they just, kind of coast.
Because it's like, okay, so he can do that as well. He can do that, but the same price Jaden Daniels can as well. So it's more so, are you trying to get away from ownership? And if that's the case, I totally get going to Josh Allen. Jalen Hurts can do the same thing in what could be a competitive game. I personally do still have Daniels pretty far ahead of those guys today, though.
I don't disagree. I just find it somewhat, I guess, interesting is a fair word, that a lot of the concerns about, facing Tennessee, I think are analogous to what Washington is dealing with Carolina in terms of the spread and whatnot. And yet Jaden Daniels is one of, if not the most popular quarterback on the slate, and Josh Allen is like 1% owned.
So are you going to try and get a little bit of him here?
It doesn't take much. If you put him basically in your pool, you're going to be over. The other tricky part clearly is, what the hell do you do with him? Do you run him naked? Do you go skinny with Kincaid? Do you pick a receiver? It's not an easy build. I'm not even saying that it is. It's still Josh Allen with virtually no ownership.
I get it. So he's not your favorite play. You just are pointing out that he's not getting ownership for sure. One of the things that I want to pay close attention to here is Ray Davis. You know why? Because if Ray Davis is out, I know it's not a great matchup, but does James Cook just start to look really good if Ray Davis doesn't play in a game where they're almost double-digit favorites?
James Cook certainly apparently is good to go, and he should get ample opportunities. Ty Johnson doesn't figure to steal those type of touches, and the touchdown equity's through the roof. He has to compete with Josh Allen, and Josh Allen has to compete with him. But if you look at how reasonably this game plays out, I would say that James Cook is in probably the best situation of any Bills player.
Yeah. The only reason I mentioned Davis is I know he didn't get a lot of work until last week, but he was so good.
He was awesome.
That it does make you wonder, like, are they just going to start using him as well?
Yeah, and in a game like this, I worry about that, just them dispersing carries.
At 5% ownership to James Cook, if Ray Davis is out and that ownership doesn't change, I think I would be very much open to getting a little bit over the field on James Cook today. I don't really want the passing game for Buffalo, though.
No, again, you could YOLO some. It's just why? Why would you? It seems a little unnecessary.
What are you trying to force? Even Kincaid has been underwhelming. So I don't really see where we'd go there. Now with Philly and the Giants, we can talk this game, 42-point total. Philly's a 3-point favorite on the road, divisional spot. Dallas Goedert's out. Jordan Mailata also on the IR, but they have a great offensive line coach, Jeff Stoutland. He'll figure some things out. Malik Neighbors, on the other hand, clears concussion. He's back, clears concussion protocol, sorry. And that's quite a big deal. So we could start with the Philly side. I will say I'm not getting the much Philly today because you have an expensive AJ Brown, you have a relatively expensive Devonta Smith. Even with Goddard out, maybe I have a blind spot here. Maybe Goddard's absence doesn't make a huge difference. You might just get like four attempts to Calcaterra. It's not like AJ Brown or Devonta Smith being out is what I'm saying. And then you have a mobile Jalen Hurts. You have Saquon Barkley, who they're, by the way, facing his former team for the first time since he joined the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a big deal. And who knows? I'm not a narrative guy, but do they try and just feed him all game, which they've tried to do all season? There's just a lot of mouths to feed, and it's hard to pinpoint these guys when none of them are. You're not getting any of them at a discount.
No, again, it's one of these teams that I'm like neutral on, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They have some weapons, but they all feel, I don't know, somewhat appropriately priced, and they fit different things. You have Calcaterra as a pay down option at tight end, but you have a couple of those on the slate. You've got Devonta Smith and AJ Brown as pay up wide receivers, but I think there's a couple on the slate that I prefer over them. You've obviously got Saquon, but I think most of us prefer Kyron. So what do you really have with them? You have weapons and it's fine, but I'm not really forcing in Jalen Hurts and these kind of pass catchers. I just don't really see it. Maybe if you want to go against the grain, we actually had, I just want to sneak this in. Goody was asking about Rudolph to Hopkins. Like, to me, that's a little too aggressive. This would be kind of where I would go for like tournaments if you want to have a wider portfolio, like Eagles exposure, because they're a good team at times and they've got weapons. But does anyone really jump off the page to you? Because for me, the answer is no.
No. The only question now is like 4.9% on Saquon Barkley. But you know what makes it difficult is you got Kyron Williams, who has an even larger workload on that team in a good spot as basically touchdown favorites at home against the Raiders. It's hard to make the argument that Saquon Barkley is the play.
No, it'd be a game theory play. You might have to manually boost him. I wasn't getting practically any in my sim runs, but I also think that's kind of warranted. I objectively like most of the backs right below Saquon more.
What about AJ Brown or Devonta? Again, crowded ranges at those positions.
That's the problem. It's not do you like Devonta Smith? Yeah, he seems solid. Do I like him more than McLaurin, Metcalf, Debo, Higgins, Ayuk, Worthy, Wandale? Some of them maybe, but not all of them. No. And then AJ Brown is expensive. You're up in the same Brown, for most people, including me, if you told me you can get AJ Brown, I'd say, where's my $500 so I can go get Jefferson?
There is one kind of concerning thing for people saying the Sims isn't giving him Barkley. Yeah. So either you leave it or you can make some manual adjustments if you wanted to boost. My guess is you'll have to boost. You're not going to be able to just like set exposure caps on some of these top guys and get Barkley. You'd very likely have to do some manual boosts in there and probably a pretty significant one because he's expensive. Goody said, not sure why you'd take Bowers over Parkinson. I'm getting both of them in a lot of lineups, to be honest. We'll get there though. So Andrew Thomas just went down with season-ending foot injury. You could say what you want, Ben, where it's like one player doesn't make a huge difference. That offensive line without Andrew Thomas has really struggled, and he's been very good as a run blocker and a pass blocker this year. That's a trouble spot for them going up against this Philly pass rush. Now, Philly had struggled to get sacks, but they can get pressure, and they can really make life miserable on a quarterback. We've also seen guys like Baker Mayfield just get the ball out quickly in that week 5 game or whatever it was, or week 4, I can't remember what it was, and just really decimate that Eagles defense. So I look at it two ways. If Daniel Jones holds on to the ball too long, he could be in for a really long day, or Wan'Dale Robinson ends up with 10 receptions in this one.
Yeah, again, I think that's just these teams, both sides, but particularly the Giants, they've got some issues. That O-line was already an issue, and now you've talked about it's going to be even more magnified. Neighbors comes back. Wan'Dale's a PPR machine, but it does seem like, for me, I mean, you've got Neighbors as a one-off, and if you wanted to go skinny, Daniel Jones does points per dollar grade out somewhat favorably because he can run. He's got an alpha target. It's a competitive spread at home. I don't think that's the worst if you want to get some Daniel Jones.
I think they're going to have to get the ball out quickly though, or Jones is just going to have to take off.
But that's good.
I have no problem with it if it works. Like if they do actually do that, because losing him, look, I know it's just one player, but when you lose a guy like that, it does actually make a significant difference, because the biggest struggle with this team for how long has been the offensive line, right? And their inability to pass block, inability to run block. Not good. I am getting, though, a decent amount of Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors.
Skinny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not a ton of Neighbors. Let me see what I have. Right now, and I'll rerun some of those. Yeah, no, I have 23% Malik Neighbors right now. And hold on. 11% Daniel Jones.
And that I think that illustrates kind of what you can kind of do. Seems like all Jones is going to be with Neighbors, but not all Neighbors has to be with Jones.
Agreed. And the reason most people are not going to get to any Wan'Dale Robinson is because he's still priced like Malik Neighbors is out.
And that's tough. It'll regress, but it won't regress immediately.
It also feels like Devin Singletary, like this backfield's pretty much untouchable right now with the news that, that they want to give Brian Dable wants to give both of them work because Teron Tracy earned it, which fine with me. I just don't have much interest in getting there and trying to figure that out at all.
No, definitely not.
Anyone else from either side of this?
No, both defenses are in play.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to pay all the way up for that Philly defense in this game. Let's talk about Detroit and Minnesota. All right, here's a fun one. 50.5 point total we've got working here. All right. Aaron Jones is expected to play. TJ Hawkinson's already been ruled out. That's not a huge surprise. Detroit or Minnesota's a 1.5 point home favorite in a game with a total north of 50. Starting off with Detroit here, Brian Flores has really put opposing teams in the blender this season. It's pretty remarkable. Rodgers did have a chance to win that in that London game. They were driving downfield. Some of these games have been very close. Minnesota was up a lot in Green Bay. They made, Jordan Love almost made a heroic comeback, fell just shy. So, they're not going to win every game of the season, I wouldn't think. Sorry, Eric. I know you're in chat. They're playing great football, though, and the defense looks great. What do we do here? Because on one hand, I generally don't get to a lot of Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah.
I don't generally get to a lot of Gibbs and Montgomery because they're both not cheap. They're upper mid-range price points. I think Gibbs is 7K, Montgomery 65 or something. And you're like, where's the ceiling game coming from in those spots, especially when it's not a great matchup? So I just don't think I get there because I don't feel like trying to figure it out.
Such a good team, such an impressive offense. One of the worst constructed teams for DFS purposes I've ever seen. They got weapons all over the place, expensive weapons all over the place, and they actually utilize these guys in a pretty good way for themselves and not for us. I mean, David Montgomery scores in literally every game, and it's still mostly not enough. It's fine, but it's not ceiling. Gibbs, on the other hand, doesn't get those goal line carries, and he has to do it elsewhere. He had a 2-touchdown game against Seattle, and he didn't even break 20 fantasy points. It's really difficult for these guys. The other problem, they don't give you zero either. They're taking a lot of fantasy points from St. Brown, Jameson Williams. Laporta caught like a 60-yard touchdown last week, and he had, one target?
Yeah, one reception for like 51 and a touchdown, or 52, something like that.
Brutal. Great players, not a great constructed team for DFS purposes. You can always go to these guys, but you have to run extremely hot within the Lions.
It is amazing though, right? Like where you have Gibbs and Montgomery on any given week could play 50% of snaps each, and they're both priced like they're number one running backs on a team that also doesn't have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson. Do you know what Laporta's target share is this season?
No, it's got to be crazy low.
10%. 10%. Maybe it's the breakout game, but how do you do it? I mean, if you want to do that, go bet an alt prop on his receiving.
Ladder him.
Ladder him. Go ladder him if you think the breakout game's coming, but you're not paying. You're not paying. You're put it this way. What would you say a fair price point on Sam Laporta should be right now?
4,200.
That's what I said to Greg the other day. Right?
Yeah.
Low to maybe mid 4, maybe.
And has nothing to do with him.
It's not his fault, no. But it also doesn't matter. I can't do it. Like Brock Bowers is the number 1 in that offense.
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't have any players left, so.
Well, that's what I mean.
No, it's a balancing act because on one hand, you look at Detroit and you could say there's going to be 4 or 5 potential offensive touchdowns to go around today. And that could be distributed 1-1, 1-1-1, or 2-2-1, or 3-1-1, and if you get the guy with 3, you're in business. For the Raiders, it's like there might be 1 touchdown to go around, but it probably is Bowers if they score. So
look, we don't need to belabor the point here, but
yeah.
Look at Sam Laporta's price point on FanDuel. He's $6,500. Brock Bowers is $7K and Kelsey $7,100. How is that? How are they even in the same ball? You should have to scroll to find Sam Laporta.
He's going to have like 5 touchdowns today now.
And you know what? It's going to happen eventually. What I'm saying, though, is the only justification for playing him is because you have a gut feeling, like you just said. There's nothing else that would point you towards that.
No,
you know what I mean?
Again, it's just a great offense, competitive game. If you want to stack it up, sure. It's just super difficult to know how they distribute and who gets enough consolidation.
Yeah, he's the number 5 in the offense right now, which is really quite crazy. I'm on Ross St. Brown. I have not a lot. It scares me. I don't have a ton of this team right now, and I think it comes down to the fact that they spread the ball around so much and nobody's cheap.
Yeah, again, it's the same story with all these guys. I do still think that St. Brown has, 15 target upside if it's one of those games, and that of course makes him playable. But his floor is much different. The guy's got 10 targets in his last 2 games. That's not an $8,300 wide receiver.
No. By the way, Tank Bigsby is so much better than Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I think we all learned. I learned that the hard way because I kept backing Etienne to score, and he would not score.
Crazy. Anyway, final thoughts on Detroit. I want to make sure that we're on the same page here because it's an important game.
Yeah, they're a good team in a good environment, but there's a lot of mouths to feed.
A lot of mouths to feed is right. And I would say at this point, Minnesota is the spot that I'm liking a lot. The only other thing I'd say, though, is that you talk about like a contrarian Josh Allen. If this game did just go to the air and it ended up being like an Amon-Ra and Jamison Williams game or Laporta, but he's hard to get to, and it ends up being a massive shootout, this is the type of team where you look at Detroit and go, oh man, I'm not shocked that a Jared Goff stack ended up winning this. That's all I'll say about that. And I wouldn't mind having at least a couple Jared Goff stacks, in my back pocket. That's all, right?
Sure.
Because it is a really high scoring atmosphere. He Bigsby touchdown. On the other side, though, Sam Darnold is cheaper. Yes, you have to pair him with Justin Jefferson, but you have no TJ Hawkinson. Again, he should be back next week. Jordan Addison's a little bit expensive, but I do actually prefer this Minnesota stack more than Detroit. The price point on Sam Darnold makes it nice. Justin Jefferson's target share is outrageous this season. Addison hasn't been spectacular, but in 3 games that he's played, he has 6 deep targets, so 20 plus yards downfield. Jefferson has 7 in those games. If this really opens up and the Aiden Hutchinson injury is actually really impactful early on and there's more time to throw, there's going to be a lot of pressure on that Detroit secondary where Sam Darnold has a clean pocket. I like this spot. I have a lot of this team today.
Yeah, I get it. It could be a season-altering injury. It's not a normal guy that goes down for the Lions, and maybe they replace it in time, but they're not going to replace it today. I like everything about Minnesota except a big piece of the puzzle. I'm a little worried about Aaron Jones in both directions. I would be really worried if I don't have any. And I'm really worried if I play him because it's a hip that went to a hamstring. And that's just the worst type of injury. It's the number one type of injury in my mind that you could in-game tweak and that they want.
Especially when you are Aaron Jones.
Yeah, we've seen this story many a time. So it's tough because I really like him on the surface. He checks out. Price is nice. Getting a lot of him in my lineups. A little freaked out though, because all it takes is a minor aggravation. It's done.
I know, man. Muhammad says Addison would have looked better if Aaron Jones wasn't playing. I don't even disagree, but also Detroit is still good at stopping the run. Maybe I just end up being wrong like I was against Seattle. That was that Monday night game, remember? And I was like, it should be a pass-heavy game, which actually ended up being a pass-heavy game for Geno. It was just Kenneth Walker still got there.
Yeah, I remember. Metcalf fell on the 1-inch line many a times.
True. Yeah. Aaron Jones scares the hell out of me today for every reason you just pointed out. Look, I'm a huge Aaron Jones guy, but I think he'll need to get a lot done through the air. Also, do they just use more Ty Chandler?
They have options.
I don't want put it this way. I don't want my day to be decided by Aaron Jones. That's how I'll put it to you.
In either direction.
Correct.
Me.
What I'm saying is I don't want to be well over you're saying you don't want to be well over or well under.
I don't want to short him, have none, because he's the type of guy, say it's not, and he has 20 touches today. He could crush in this spot.
Would you just feel way better if you're around the field on Aaron Jones?
Well, that's what I'm going to do. 100%.
Yeah, okay. You are. Okay. So you'll make tweaks if you have to.
Yeah, I know what I want to do with Aaron Jones, and that's nothing. I don't want a big stand. I don't know what to do with him. He's grades out well, but I think there is some potential real downside given the uncertainty.
So do I. You're not going to like this, but would you consider any guy like Johnny Mund at tight end because it's such a bad position? If only if you're stacking Dalton with Jefferson and he's your two piece instead of Jordan Addison.
Darnold, but yeah,
Sam Darnold.
Yeah. I think it would be confined to that because if you told me I needed a cheap tight end agnostic of my quarterback, it wouldn't be Mund.
Agreed. But if you told me that a cheap tight end on any slate this season could finish with 8, which is like two receptions for, or like not 2 receptions for 10 yards and a touchdown, that's very much in play here for Johnny Mund if you're stacking with Darnold. Otherwise, I don't want any of them unless it's with Darnold.
Yep.
All right. Goody said, I really want a mega stack or super stack this game, but it's too expensive. I don't think it's doable, honestly.
Yeah, it's
at least not positively simmed, positive ROI lineups. I don't think it's doable.
No, there's too much salary allocation.
Yeah. All right. What do we got next? Oh, I'll tell you what we got next, Ben. The fact that if any of you, okay, so we still have 2 hours and 20 minutes until locked. So I'm going to tell you something. If you weren't with us throughout the week, if you weren't with us last Sunday, open up those ears because this is going to benefit you greatly. By the way, we had, this was really cool. I had somebody tweet me yesterday morning. It was Brandon Wagner. Claim the at Lafayette_D. Claim the promo for the free month and deposit match on Vivid and hit this bad boy right out of the gate. So he used the link, got the free month of Core, $100 value. Link in the description and in the chat. So you sign up on any of those and follow the simple steps that you'll see on the page. Jordan, I prefer the page better than the graphic, if we're being honest, so people can see the steps to follow to make it easier. Follow any of those steps or all of those steps. Super simple. Just the only real requirement is that you have to click that claim now link on those down there. So if you look down on the books, you'll see claim offer, claim offer, claim offer. If you're in a Bet365 state, that's the best sign up offer regardless. And you're getting a free month, $100 value Sims Core package for any sport you want. Also, you can stack them. So not only are you getting this, now you're making better lineups. Now you're winning more. But also, you can get months upon months of this. So the Sims, the single lineup sim, ownership, top stacks, boom bust tool. And so you sign up on Vivid, then you sign up on Bet365 and Caesars. Now you've got 3 months. You want 2 NFL, 1 NBA. You got it. It's amazing. We've never done anything like this. We've never done anything nearly as good. Anyway, Brandon Wagner hits me up, Ben. He uses the promo because you have to email us with the welcome email and the first settled bet, right? So he throws one out there. turns 25 into 1,500 for the 2-game baseball slate with like just a wild six leg lineup over there on Vivid. Turns $25 into 1,500, gets a sign up bonus, crushes the bet, and gets the free month of Sims. Can't beat it.
No, again, bonus is on your bonus. And that's the beautiful thing about it. It's not something where it's just, oh, I'm doing this solely for this. These are good opportunities on these sites. And my favorite thing about this, I say it every day over on OddsShopper, you may not need or want to be on all these sites, but I can almost guarantee there's one or two that fit what you're trying to do, no matter what you're doing, whether you're really serious into pick'em, really serious into betting, really serious into something else. There's so many different options there. So just find the one, scroll and find the one or two that work for you. Set yourself up with NBA starting Tuesday. I'm wearing a Knicks shirt right now. Obviously NFL, there's so many different options. And you mentioned that it's stacked. So it's just, we couldn't be more excited. It's easy to talk about stuff like this because honestly, it sells itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're making better lineups as a result. You're getting bonuses and you're getting as many free months as you want. And if you're in non-legal betting states, people complain in the chat about that, rightfully so. All of the pick'em sites are included in there as well. And I guarantee at least some of those are available in your state. So links in the description and in the chat. After that first bet settles, guess what? You are in and you've got it. That's simple. It's awesome. All right. 21 years older to gamble. If you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Thank you, Jordan. Cincinnati at Cleveland. Cincy 5.5-point favorites. God, I'm such a sucker because I like Cleveland in this game.
That's something normally I would say. I'll let you take that one today. Go ahead.
From a betting standpoint.
No, I know. That's, again, something that I would say. I would say, oh, hot take. Cleveland can win this game and then they lose 27-3. I
mean, hey, I just said I'm dumb for it. But I think it punt return touchdown for the Jags, by the way. But Deshaun Watson is so bad. But it's a divisional spot. And Cincinnati, outside of Joe Burrow, their defense has been bad too. Don't give me that, Sunday night against the Giants. I don't know, man. Get Nick Chubb back in the mix. I think he'll get decent work, nothing crazy. I'm excited to see him back personally. The offensive line is getting healthier. It's just a bad football team without question. But in some spots okay. So to be fair, I took him at 6.5, Ben. Would that assuage your fears a little bit? The fact that I got him outside of 6? Certainly
when you're taking a number better than the market like that, you're getting some closing line value. That definitely helps. I'm just, if I'll tell you this, if Jameis was somehow starting, I would be loving this. Deshaun Watson has been that bad. Yeah, it's bad. Ethan Posick was back at practice though too. They got Conklin back. They have Will, whatever. It doesn't matter. I just don't love anything from the DFS side on the Bengals side. Like Cleveland defense at home, at the very least, is a pretty good defense at home. Oh, I agree with that. I think they're one of the punt defenses that you can look to. So it's just not a great game. I'm not going to have a lot of exposure to this game in general.
What are you doing with the Bengals? We'll work both sides. We don't need to spend a ton of time here.
Not much, honestly. I mean, it's not that their weapons aren't, so good that they can get it done in any matchup. But Jamar Chase is just in a really tough spot price-wise versus the other options on the slate. We mentioned we're starved for value. I can't seem to find ways to get these Bengals skill position players in my lineups.
I'm having a tough time with it too. And between Chase and Moss, that's becoming a stay away at this point, unless one of them breaks hard in the other direction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing the backfield, so.
Me neither. I mean, Jamar Chase is always viable. But even last week, when you look at that game against Philly with Cleveland, those catches that A.J. Brown made were in the tightest of coverage that you could ever imagine. I know you know what I'm referring to. He made 2 unbelievable catches. That's as perfect coverage as you can get. It was just A.J. Brown. So maybe Jamar does that, but I love the top tier this week, and it won't be here, including Higgins, Mike Gesicki. But on the other side, would you at least be interested in, an inexpensive Jerry Jeudy now that Amari's gone, David Njoku? Look, again, we know this offense is terrible. Trust me, I'm not trying to like gaslight people into believing Cleveland is good. This is more so just divisional spot, 6.5 point dog at home. That's why. Okay. That's the only reason. Not a like DFS thing. But what about Judy and Njoku against this defense today with no more Amari? Is it still a stay away?
No, I mean, again, I think that you kind of illustrated what you're getting into. I think you can take some shots on those guys because the price points give you a lot more room. Do I love it? No. Is it part of a stack? Probably not. But just looking at kind of what I've messed around with already, a guy like Jerry Jeudy or Njoku just as a one-off at their price points, I think is fine. Although it's hard to get really excited about anything with Cleveland right now.
I do like David Njoku a little bit.
Okay.
Hey, tight end, you know why? Tight end just stinks, dude. Tight end stinks. It's a bad position.
Bad.
Let me, for me, it's Bowers, Parkinson, Njoku, Ertz. If you wanted to throw Kelsey or Kittle into the mix, fine, but they're expensive. Maybe I have a little bit of Schultz, a little bit of Pitts, those type of guys. I have 2% Grant Calcaterra right now.
No Sanders?
Well, no, here's why. I have 1% I liked them a lot last week. I was healthily over the field on Jatavian Sanders last week, but Ian Thomas probably gets more work this week. And then my assumption with Tommy Tremble clearing protocol that he's going to be back. So if Tremble's back and Ian Thomas is back, do I really feel like trying to figure that out at tight end for Carolina?
It's fair. Yeah, I mean, I may take a couple shots. We'll get there, but
well, it's also possible that your best guy is just Sanders, and he looked pretty good last week, and he's athletic. Like when he was drafted, there were a lot of people who said this guy's the steal of the draft at the position.
I hope that's the case.
Look, I don't mind getting to him, but I'm just saying now it's more crowded than it was last week.
Definitely.
So Njoku to me is perfectly fine. I have a little bit of Jerry Jeudy. I have, again, trace amounts. That's about where I stand here. Aside from that, I'm not getting to the backfield.
Yep. Nick Chubb, awesome to see him work back. Nothing actionable.
No. Now, even with Jerome Ford out, it's very possible that Donta Foreman just gets a decent amount of work as well. So I'll pass. Njoku is my highest owned player in this game for what it's worth, Ben.
Yeah, Browns defense, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, fair. They're actually my highest owned quote unquote player from this game. I have 26%. But actual player, David Njoku. All right. Let's keep it moving then. Next up, Houston, Green Bay. Green Bay 3-point favorites. 48.5 point total. Dontavian Wicks, I don't know what's going on with him. He was originally listed as week to week, but he's been limited in practice all week, and now he's questionable. If he's out or in, does it make any difference for you, given these pass catchers?
I mean, a little, just because Green Bay is a very difficult team. We need all the help we can get in terms of let's slowly concentrate targets. Is it a huge deal? No, but it's not nothing.
I think it makes a difference. You probably get a little more Christian Watson, more usage out of him. I think Jaden Reed's a little difficult to get to, though. I had this back and forth with someone in chat last week on this show with you. Like when I had said that Jaden Reed's just not, a dominant target share guy. And he's like, well, what do you mean? He's going to get more and more. It's like, well, if he does, then he does, but he certainly hasn't yet. And, last week he scored and still finished with less than 15 fantasy points. He's really good. And he can produce on, both on the ground and through the air. But you're paying $7,200 for a guy that's likely touching the ball between, 4 and 7 times a game.
Yeah, I mean, he did. It's not about 1 week, but he did literally what we said last week we were worried about. He had another 6 targets, and It's just almost impossible with that type of volume to pay for that type of price. If that's really where it's falling week after week.
Unless, people look at what he did against Philly, which was incredible. What he did against Minnesota. But, even against Philly, he had 6 targets in 1 rush. It just so happened that he did everything on all of them.
Yeah. I mean, you can poke holes in most of it. And then if you look at Minnesota, which was his high target game of 8, they literally threw the ball like 50 times. He didn't even have a good target share. There was just so much volume.
Yeah, that was the point. I think he was 3rd on the team in targets.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't anything. It was just everyone got a little more.
Yep. So it's tough for me. Right. If Wicks is out, I think I'd probably get a little bit more of the Dobbs and the Watsons and stuff. I don't think I'd get more Reed though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Maybe what about Tucker Kraft? This is another spot where are we really trying to pay that upper 6K price point for in all likelihood, if this game plays to the spread and doesn't, devolve into a blowout where Green Bay's playing from behind like they did against Minnesota, you're talking 4 or 5 targets.
Not looking to do that. I mean, Tucker Kraft, you can kind of see, not to game log Hunt, but really the only difference between his games has just been he happened to run crazy hot with touchdowns in one of them. He had 5 targets and he scored twice in that game. In the next game, he had 4 targets and he did nothing. And he had 3.5 fantasy points. So not looking to do that. I would much rather play Njoku.
Me too. What about Jacobs?
Problem with Jacobs is that it's just crowded. He is sandwiched between Chuba and Pollard. I still think there's something to be said about a guy that can touch the ball 20 plus times, and I kind of like Green Bay in the matchup. So yeah, I'll say he's reasonable, although honestly, he doesn't stand out amongst his peers either. He's just like in that bucket for me of Chuba, Pollard, Jacobs, those types.
Yeah.
I like Pollard slightly more for what it's worth.
Hops, here's a good one. After the soft talk and sensitivity about fictional characters and eye rolls, have to unsub, my lord. See you, pal. Is this in reference to the backfield?
See what you did? It's because you slandered Knuckles. Nice show.
Oh man. That seems soft to me.
Well, if you ever want to resub, it's free. Remember that.
Yeah, right, right. Hit us up at the window.
Hey, Marcus Allen. That's what I like to see. See, that's what I'm talking about.
What, did he just create a nickname for himself? Oh no. Marcus Allen, $10 super chat. Thanks, brother. Hey team, first time using the tools this NFL main slate. Would be funny. What is it? Hold on. Would be funny to bink a Millie first. Yeah, I mean, it would be more than fun.
It happens, man. Someone's gonna bink it. So
someone is. That's the real lotto though. That and like the play action. I mean, lotto tickets.
You know what you're getting into, but you know what? We've seen many a times people say, hey, I got the tools and I love my process and I ran, let's be honest, you have to run hot no matter what. But someone's going to do it. And I hope they're rocking the Stokastic avatar when they do.
Will asked, why play Pollard? Titans are about to lose by 20 points. I mean, they definitely could. But the difference is that with Tajay Spears out, we may not have even mentioned that, but Tajay Spears is out. That's why you and I were talking about kind of being game script proof. He's probably just on the field a ton. I can't imagine they use Julius Chestnut all that much.
No, it's a volume thing. And despite them, I know it seems like they're going to lose by 20, but they're 9-point underdogs. And they're in a bad spot, but they're still, it's not crazy that the game stays competitive or even plays to the spread. And if that happens, I think Pollard has chances.
Do you like Houston on the other side of this Green Bay game today with Nico Collins, obviously on the IR in this spot?
So I think there are pieces for Houston. I'm not really getting to Stroud. Tank Dell, 6,500. It seems like he's just certainly a staple of this offense. So is Diggs, but price-wise, I'm more favorable to Dell. I don't really have an opinion on Schultz. I don't really have an opinion on Mixon. That was a 13 for 102.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'll limit it to Dell.
I thought the same thing, honestly. You and I even talked about this on Tuesday, and my opinion hasn't changed all that much. Diggs is probably slightly above Dell in the pecking order, but is he enough above Dell to be that much more expensive?
That's my concern as well.
Yeah, because on DraftKings, pretty big price difference. On FanDuel, you have Tank Dell at 7K and Diggs at 8,600. Really big price gaps on those guys. When Dell is someone that will get opportunities in the red zone, we saw it last year and this year, particularly when they didn't have all of the bodies healthy. So yeah, like Robert Woods, not that it matters, but he's out. They're not using Xavier Hutchinson. It feels like a 2-man show at the wide receiver position right now.
I mean, it is that way. So all in all, like I said, I think that Dell checks the most boxes of any of these guys. But yeah, unless you're stacking, and I'm not really doing that, it's confined to one-offs, and within that, it's mostly Tank Dell.
Would you say it's hard to prioritize this game as a whole?
Oh, definitely.
I
It's
think
not.
so too.
It's a scary game because we've seen time and time again both these teams have some of those crazy shootouts, but I'm not prioritizing this game.
I just got another tweet from Tim Johnson. Laffy, I signed up last night for Bet365, DraftKings, and FanDuel. Damn, dude, you weren't on any of those? That is wild.
Well, that's nice.
Where were you playing? Anyway, awesome. I won 106 last night, plus free bets today, plus 3 months of core. Yeah, so what is that? Like $500 worth? You know, on a total $30 or $25 deposit. Awesome though, Tim. Love to see it. That's what we want. And we want you to have success today with the tools as well. All right, let's move on then. I thought we'd have more there, but okay, this one's a fun one. Seattle and Atlanta. Let's talk about Seattle first. They're 3-point dogs, 51.5 point total in the Dome in Atlanta. Geno Smith this year, Ben, is, one of the worst quarterbacks under pressure. You look at, leads the league in interceptions under pressure, one of the worst the passer ratings. I could go down the list, right? Not good. Like 50% completion rating. When he has a clean pocket, though, he has been one of the best in the league. Most completed passes, second in passing yards, 0 interceptions. Across the board, Geno Smith with a clean pocket has been great. They are also the most pass-heavy team in football this year. And he's an accurate quarterback. This is the tricky part. No team has allowed a higher completion percentage to opposing passers than the Atlanta Falcons. No team is allowing a higher completion percentage to wide receivers, 75%, than the Atlanta Falcons. But also, they do a really good job of keeping these guys in front of them. Like, they're 5th best in yards per attempt for quarterbacks. They're one of the best in the league at preventing yards after the catch for pass catchers. So it's like a weird give and take scenario here. I liked it from a betting perspective because it's like, well, let me grab some alt overs on like DK Metcalf reception props instead of hammering the yardage ladders. And then, Geno Smith looking to complete a lot of passes. Still a very high total though. And this is how it kind of all comes together. When I talk clean pocket versus pressure, Atlanta is dead last in the league with 5 sacks. They're one of the worst teams in pressure rate this year. That's where Geno has struggled. That's where this line has struggled. They're not getting to the quarterback at an impressive clip at all. So to me, this game could truly, and judging by the total, I'm not saying anything you don't already know, this game could truly shoot out.
Oh yeah, this is a good game. Could be one of the best games on the slate. Competitive. Obviously, there's no weather concerns, anything like that. Just everything checks most of the boxes. Price points you can go to. You can go to either quarterback. And you mentioned, yeah, some of that stuff. I still think all in all, though, I kind of work from like the base and then going up. And the baseline for me
where
is
you're going to go here.
You know what I mean? If you can get the ball in these guys' hands, everything else in somewhat is kind of gravy, is upside. It's if they can't get to the ball, if they can't complete the completions, you got problems. But if you're saying to me, okay, Atlanta does some of these secondary stats well, I'll worry about that if I have to. If they can get the ball to Metcalf and JSN, I will live with the result.
Especially getting the ball in the hands of a behemoth like Metcalf.
Monsters. They can supersede any of that type of stuff.
I couldn't agree more with you. But it is really an interesting way that this Atlanta defense is designed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm not sure you can truly bank on that when you're giving top end wide receivers the ball and in space. And I know they do a good job, but no, I worry about Atlanta in terms of the defense holding up here.
It's going to have to be after the catch. They really do a great job of taking away not allowing nothing over the top. They've allowed a league low 8 completions of 20 plus yards. So yeah, it just has to be done in a different fashion. And I think it can be. I like Metcalf a lot today. I have no problem getting the Seattle stacks either.
No,
especially with how bad Seattle's defense has played. Reek Woolen's out again too.
Yeah, I mean the game, both sides. I think you could, if you want to tell me you want to go to Cousins, I wouldn't have any pushback there either.
And I do. 2 of my 3 highest owned quarterbacks are in this game. Jaden Daniels, number 1 for me. Now, I will rerun this and it might look different, but we haven't had any really significant news. I'll rerun once we get the injury report, the inactives. Kirk Cousins 2, Geno Smith 3, and I'm not shying away from that, man. How could you? Why would I want to shy away from Drake London today? Like, why would you want to do that?
No, listen, this checks out. I guess for me, it's more about lineup construction within. Are you looking at QB +2s here mostly?
I'm going to tell you right now. The great thing about the Sims tool is I can toggle one button over and see what my stack exposures are. Geno's actually a lot of +1 and +2. I have no +3 with Geno.
Okay.
But I have combined, I have Geno, Geno +1, +2. Kirk Cousins, I actually have a lot of +3, and my guess is that that's because there's a good amount of Ray and Bijan in those lineups. I already know I have a lot of Drake London. I already know. I looked. I have a ton of Drake London.
Yep. Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, Cousins, obviously, he's not going to be running. So if he really has a crazy game, you're going to want probably a couple.
So far, this probably this might be my highest exposed game on the slate. Anyway. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing. I'm just looking at what I've done, and Mooney also factors in, Ray factor. There's just ample ways to stack up either side.
What are you doing with Bijan? We saw last game where he really dominated touches through the first 3 quarters. And then in the 4th quarter, when they salted it away, Tyler Algier went nuts.
Yeah, we talked a little about this on the first look. You know, I'm not sure I was ever out because I just kept playing through it, but we kind of got some flashes, and he finally ran hot with a couple touchdowns. I think he's just firmly playable. I really do. You know, I don't think it's the best price point in the world. It's come back up. He cratered at 66, and it was a perfect storm. He happened to score twice in that exact game. But yeah, I looked to Bijan, and I'm fine with it.
I think you probably see some good passing game involvement here, and I don't mind having him with Kirk Cousins. You know why either? Because Kirk Cousins doesn't run at all. I mean, literally at all. You will not see him run. You will not see him run. So anything that Bijan gets, like, Kirk's just not taking that away from him. Ever. It's not like playing Barkley in an Eagles stack where you're paying a premium on Barkley and Jalen Hurts and one of the pass catchers. This is Bijan on the ground, or hopefully Bijan in the passing game. So I don't mind him in these Cousins stacks. The Sims is giving me a good amount of that right now, and I'll probably keep it, Ben.
Yeah, and we just got a super chat asking from Caleb. Appreciate it. What about a run back with this game? We've seen more and more that you actually run backs, I don't want to say they're overrated, but they're certainly not as necessary as I once thought. This is a game, though, because it's very competitive. I don't mind the run back. So if you go to like the Cousins stack, if you want to take one of the Seattle pass catchers, that would be my advice. And if you go to Geno and Metcalf, if you wanted London or Bijan on the other side or someone like that, I think that makes a lot of sense as well.
The way I see it is I don't have to force it because I'm going to get some anyway, just based on my exposure to the individual players in this game. Like, it's just going to happen naturally.
Yep.
Yeah. What are you doing with Ray and Mooney and Pitts before we move on?
I think they're mostly going to be confined within Cousins' world, but they're in that world. So I think you could do it as Drake London's clearly the guy. I think that's what you're looking at. But then guys like Mooney and Ray are involved. I'd say Pitts, ironically, even though the position is awful, again, I would rather play Njoku in the same range. So
I think I would too. Random Stuff Man asked about Grant Calcaterra. Yeah, we didn't mention him. He's fine. That's the simplest way to put it. You're not gonna get any analysis that's like, yeah, he's a great play today. No. He's maybe the 5th option on this team. Possibly 4th. Probably, 4th or 5th. Behind Hurts, he's definitely 5th when you consider Hurts rushing upside. So, I have a little bit, but that's just because he's cheap. But he's also not even 2,700. Like, they preemptively priced Calcaterra up knowing that Dallas Goedert would miss this with a hamstring. So he's fine. That's it. All right. Miami, Indy. 43.5 point total. Colts 3-point favorites. If Joe Flacco were playing, I'd probably have a lot more interest here. A whole lot more interest. The way I see it now, by the way, Pittman, Downs, and Pierce were all questionable, still are. They're all expected to play. Greg made an argument on Wednesday and Friday, which I don't disagree with, that Richardson really does have that unknown quantity where he is, he's an unknown. He's just an unknown. He could be terrible. He could throw 2 pick sixes early on and then have to throw the rest of the game and run his ass off. And, he ends up having a great fantasy game despite them not playing well. I still don't know. Like, I'm not getting to much of this right now. I also don't really feel like trying to figure out Pittman, Downs, and Pierce if Flacco's not in there. I do have a little Trey Sermon, though. As bad as he's been, they keep feeding him the rock, and Jonathan Taylor's out. He's probably my top option from this game, believe it or not, or from this side.
I mean, I do believe it, but I think you're even alluding to it. It's not a product of liking him. It's just a product of the rest of the side is a mess.
Mm-hmm.
At least he's got volume. Now, he doesn't do anything with it, and he's infringing on a decimal back situation where he's really confined to just running the ball. But this is a bad environment, and it's just really hard to talk about this game because you mentioned we have no, or at least I don't have any insight into the wide receiver situation for the Colts. Everybody's banged up and it's very difficult to know. And then you layer that with a quarterback that how much do we really know about Richardson? Truly. I mean, we see flashes of talent, but what do we really know?
We know that he has big play upside and he's still very mistake prone. That's what he is.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't disagree. It's just none of those things really strengthen or negate. Like, oh, does that help Pittman? Those 2 factors. Well, I don't think it really does much for any of them.
Yeah. CGS, how do I boost? What's up, man? By the way, how do I boost my exposure or limit my exposure to certain players within the Sims? You'll see it. So like run everything. And of course you can change projections, but I wouldn't do that until you've so go in the lineups. And after you get favorite your lineups and then go to ROI boost, you'll see it right there. Exposure caps as well. So with exposure caps, you can just cap exposure to a specific player. And then with the ROI boost, you're not changing the lineups because it's already a field that's generated the lineups through the contest generator. You're just boosting the ROI of individual players or teams, which will bring them up the list. So then unfavored and favorite your top 50 again. It'll auto sort them for you. But that's the way I do it, Ben.
Yeah. There's again a ton of ways to kind of navigate there, but that's one of the simplest ones if you want to make some manual adjustments.
All right. Where are we at? Oh, I know where we're at. I know. The Miami side.
Yeah, great.
Tua is coming back next week. I'm not going to the backfield here for Miami. I thought about betting some spots here, but I still feel like there's a lot of, ambiguity where you have Devon Achane returning from the concussion. Raheem Mostert last week got thrust into a huge role with Achane going out, or 2 weeks ago before the bye. And then Jalen Wright, 2 weeks ago, produced really well on 13 carries on top of that. Do they just go with a 3-man backfield right now, at least until Tua gets back? I don't know. It concerns me.
Yeah, it concerns you because it's concerning. This team is holding, I mean, they're not even really holding on at this point, but they're trying to just hold on as best they can until hopefully they can get back their quarterback and he can hopefully stay healthy. Because without him, what is Miami, even on short slates, what has Miami done to excite us at all? It's just been terrible. And I don't know how much that's really going to change today. The problem with them on top of it is they've got real weapons and the prices have dropped, but they haven't gone into the gutter, and that just renders them really difficult to play.
I can't do it. And I'm not going to the pass catchers here.
No.
Can't. And it sucks because what a great matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Indy indoors against that, a secondary that could be exploited. It's just such a difficult, I know it's a shorter slate, but it's still 10 games. If this was, a double header on Monday night, obviously, or something extreme, we'd be talking about a lot of options for Miami, but it's not.
I have one Devon Achane lineup. That is my entirety of my exposure to this team. And
it's not great.
I have 3% Trey Sermon right now at 5,500. just the volume thing. Outside of that, that's it, right? That's it. A little bit of Trey Sermon, one Devon Achane lineup, no real pass catchers. I will just pull it up real quick. Do I have any Indy? Okay, I have 2% Josh Downs as well. Gives you an idea of where I'm at, right? I don't think we need to go much further here.
No. We had a question about defenses. It's hard. I hear you, Caleb. I mean, there's no real rhyme, at least in my opinion, there's no real rhyme or reason with defense.
No, and you can see games that are high scoring where the defense gives up a lot of points still be optimal because they have defensive touchdowns. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. So, play the defense that fits best with your lineup. That's the way I would always tell you to do it. Play the defense that fits best. Don't overthink it. Don't go crazy. It's pretty simple. Carolina and Washington. And by the way, stick around. Live Before a Lot coming up next. And if you guys aren't rocking the Stokastic avatar, Ben, you've got the Stokastic avatar, of course.
I certainly do.
Me too. You should use one of the new ones too, because there's 6 of them and they're beautiful. And you can find them at stokastic.com/HOF. What's that?
I did, because I had my own and I just recently changed it.
Oh, which one?
I went with the traditional, the blue.
Okay. I went with the far right. I like that one. Stokastic.com/HOF. If you're not over there, Jordan can throw it up right now. Download one of those, use it wherever it is you play. One of those beautiful avatars, anywhere you play. Okay. And finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Doesn't matter what your entry is. Like, it could be a 10-cent entry. It doesn't matter. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Tweet us your wins at Stokastic HOF. Maybe a nice little message. Tag us as well. We like to see those things. First time you win, get bronze tier. We've revamped everything. Free month of any single sports Sims package. Sims Max, by the way. So every 10,000 lineups, every tool we have for that sport. Win a second time in a calendar year. It could be the next day. It doesn't matter. Get silver tier any month. So another month plus another week of any sport you want. Third time, gold tier. How about that? Free month Sims all access, every tool for every single sport. And actually tomorrow, I got to create 10 of these and ship them out, Ben. 10 Rings of Honor recipients coming up. Any win of 20K plus, doesn't matter the prize pool. Get one of those beautiful things. And if you could see on the ring, it says the name above it and Hall of Fame under Stokastic with the custom engraved nameplates down there, spinning display case to commemorate your big wins. Who doesn't want one of those? Make it worthwhile. Scrap the picture of your ferret. I know you think they're cute, but it's not winning you any extra money. Slap that Stokastic avatar in there and start making money on top of the money you're already making. Stokastic.com/HOF. How's that for a fucking read, man?
Yeah, ferrets. Nice. Cat. Put that on the bingo card. I didn't have that.
Carolina, Washington. Deontay Johnson's going to play. Jonathan Brooks remains out. Okay, so I've been getting to a lot of Chuba Hubbard all season, and I think rightfully so. The guy's been just awesome. I have 15% today, which I'm fine with. I'm getting some Deontay Johnson. Not surprised by that either. He is going to play, so that's encouraging. They're just going to have to throw the football. And I said it a lot. I sound like a broken record, but they pass block well, yet their defense is terrible. So what does that mean? They pass block well, but their defense is terrible. They're going to have to throw. Give me Jaden Daniels. Give me Brian Robinson, expected to be back, hopefully not limited. Give me Terry McLaurin. Give me some Zach Ertz. Give me some Deontay Johnson, some Chuba Hubbard, and some Andy Dalton. He's actually too cheap. He's $5,200. He should be more expensive than that. And yes, I do have a little bit of Jalen Coker as well at minimum salary. Those are the lineups where I'm getting away from the dual tight end, and I'm going with a 3K guy as an attachment to Andy Dalton. I have a lot of this game. I like this game. Should be a lot of points. That is my hope.
Yeah, I think, it makes a lot of sense. You've mentioned Washington's been super impressive, but it's not without faults. It's pretty clear if you look at any metrics, they still have serious issues, particularly on defense. And Carolina's got some dirty data because of, what the hell was going on in the first couple weeks of the season. So if you start to isolate a couple things, you quickly see that this game, not that bad. And you've got really, what more could you ask for? You've got 2 running backs in the mid-range. You've got a pay down tight end at Washington. You have a complete dumpster dive, blind stab at tight end in Carolina if you want to go to Sanders. You have a min-price wide receiver for Carolina. You've got a mid-range wide receiver for Carolina. You've got Terry McLaurin. You've got Daniels. You've got a punt quarterback. I mean, every price point on each team is playable in this game. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
You know, you're 100% right, but you know how this is going to end? People will be like, oh, no, it's going to be a 17-10 game. No, I'll do you one better. It's going to end up being like 60 total points, and then it's just going to be McNichols and De'Ami Brown, you know, and Tommy Tremble. It just, dude, does any game line up better for that type of outcome than this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even, I need to actually pull it up because I don't even know the answer to this. Who the hell is behind Chuba?
Miles Sanders.
It's still, I mean, I was looking for, the guy I was trying to think of is Blackshear. I don't even know if he's still on the team, but there he is. Yeah, he's got a whopping 0 carries this year. It's going to be some creative players. I'll leave it at that, but this is a really good game. The one thing though, I definitely am a little, and I want to put this in context, I'm not as high on Jaden Daniels as everybody else this week.
Tell me why. This is important.
I still think that we talked about this at length on the first look, and for me, he's been awesome. But what has got him there has been his rushing upside so far. If you look at his stats, he's got 6 passing touchdowns in 6 games. Now, they've come in the last 4 games, but even there, it hasn't been that. The reason he's had some big explosive performances is he's got 4 rushing touchdowns, and all of his quote-unquote ceiling games are predicated on that. Against Carolina, of all teams, I worry that they suppress a little of that. So is he in the pool? Yes. Do I think he's firmly in play? Absolutely. Do I think that he needs to run to tap into the ceiling? I do, and I don't know if that's a given.
Does that mean you love Brian Robinson then? Because you should really, I'm not saying you should, but you would think, given that logic, that Brian Robinson would really be a nice play for you today.
Yeah, I do like Brian Robinson. Obviously, that comes with its own set of issues in the backfield of just they've got confidence clearly in 3 guys back there. Some of it was through opportunity, some of it was through injury, but yes, there's going to be touchdowns to go around for Washington, and Robinson should be, I mean, he's got to be on the short list of most likely touchdown scorers today.
Yeah, he was a big. Yeah, I was looking at the odds on that earlier. Whoa, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and even, you know, just to recap, and I respect Baltimore. He had 21 against Baltimore with 22 rushing yards. 21 is not, you know, that's fine, but it's not. If you told me you played Jaden Daniels today and he gives you 21 fantasy points, or you could roll the dice, who the hell is saying give me the 21?
Sure. I mean, my favorite player from this game is actually still Brian Robinson.
I'm just saying, Jaden Daniels, the price has come up a lot. 7,600. You can't just be, if you throw 1 touchdown in the game, you better be running wildly, because I don't know how he gets there then.
Well, that's the thing though. When you can do anything against a team like Carolina, he might just have 4 passing touchdowns.
That would be something we haven't even been close to seeing. If he does that, then you're in business.
Yeah, we haven't, but at the same time, yeah, he hasn't faced a matchup like this.
No.
Like he faced Cleveland, who has a good secondary and a good pass rush. He evaded that pass rush with a lot of rushing, and they kind of just beat up on them. Cincinnati was another one where if you looked at that game, you would have thought that he threw 4 touchdowns.
But he didn't.
But I get it. What I'm saying is, I think he can. That's what I'm saying. I think he can. And you think we're seeing a Jaden Daniels that probably can't. That's where
I'm not even saying that he can't. I'm saying that he hasn't.
Got you. I got you. And we're paying for a guy that without
that
the rushing
hasn't yet
needs to. Got it.
Yes.
I got it.
Yes.
Either way, great game.
Great game.
All right. What do you want to do with the next one on the list? Unless there's anything else for this, we can talk Vegas and Rams.
I mean, we really only need to talk about the Rams. So
okay. Well, no, Brock Bowers is a good.
Well, that's a given. But I bet the Rams. I'll tell you that much.
Did you?
Yeah. The Raiders are done. Not that they were ever alive.
I think they get a 1-week dead cat bounce with Devontae Adams out of the locker room.
If the personnel wasn't so bad, I would agree. But they legitimately have. It's a talent issue now.
I expect Zamir White to be out there. If he's not, I would play Alexander Madison. But aside from that, it's just Brock Bowers.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Tucker can always catch a 60-yarder, and with no Myers and no Adams, I'm sure he'll have chances, but it's just Bowers.
I love Kyron Williams on the other side. Love him. I really like Colby Parkinson at his price point, right? It's a price play. It's a bad position. And I like Jordan Whittington a lot. Like all three of those guys, I will have a lot of exposure to today. This Raiders defense is getting worse by the week. And, they're just going to be on the field a lot, presumably, with how dysfunctional this offense is right now. So Kyron, Parkinson, Whittington, assuming Cooper Kupp, who's currently doubtful, doesn't play. Those are the spots I like quite a bit, Ben. All of them.
Yeah. Again, not going to push back on really any of that. It's a team that's just price points check out. I like the spot. I mentioned I laid the points. Kyron, he might be my favorite play on the slate, and I think that's coinciding with most people.
What did you lay him at?
I had to lay 7.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't sure. Yeah, because I wasn't sure if it moved to 6. I wasn't sure if you got the 7 or if it was a 6.5.
I looked, believe me, I missed 6.5.
Okay. Yeah, that would have been nice. But it did bounce around from 7 to 6.5 for a little while, I think.
No, it was out there. It was just, what are you gonna do?
Well, you're confident in the Rams today.
No, I'm just very confident that the Raiders are absolutely cooked.
What's your favorite bet of the week? Cy. Is it this one?
No, it's the Jets.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm not on this we're gonna start Russell Wilson train. I don't get that at all.
I actually, in the video, the Odd Shopper video I did every Tuesday, do the picks for every game video. My analysis was basically, listen, it's not even about Devontae Adams. It's I won't back Russell Wilson.
Neither will I.
I can't do it. If it were Justin Fields, I'd feel more confident. I think it's crazy that Russell Wilson's getting the start.
Yeah, me too. That's why I bet the Jets.
Okay, I'm sure people will pop up in chat being like, Fields hasn't been good. Fine, but he's not losing them games. And if he's losing them games, guess what would have happened? Russell Wilson lost teams many games in the past couple of years. So, yeah. Fields almost brought him back in that Colts game, too. Like, he hasn't been good, but he hasn't been bad at all.
And he fits the identity. He fits the perfect identity of what they want to do.
Pretty shocking to me. Pretty shocking. Is it still 2.5 Jets?
I got it at 1.5.
1.5?
So.
Jet laying 1.5 on the Jets.
Laying, yes.
Yeah. Man, what an ugly spot.
Oh, it's gonna be a bad game, but yeah.
If I asked you, what would you put the odds at that Russell Wilson was going to come out here and be good? Right. And good, that's a disputed question. Like, what does good mean? But, be sensible. Good enough to come out and win this game and play well. And we go, hey, Russell Wilson looked good. What do you think the odds are in his first game back?
Low, very low. What I'd constitute good for him would be that he doesn't single-handedly lose them the game, because.
Okay, so that's what I mean. We have different your definition of good is basically
he's not carving up the Jets secondary. I don't see any way that happens.
Your definition of good is don't fuck it up.
Yes, that would go a long way, because the Steelers have an amazing defense and they're at home at night. That would go a long way for the Steelers winning the game, is don't do anything.
Kind of what Fields has done for most of the year.
That's why they're 4-2.
Yeah. Isn't that something? Anyway, we'll pay attention to Kupp, but at least we have news now that he's not a game time decision. He's leaning doubtful. That's helpful.
That helps a lot. Yes.
That would have actually been really bad for me to try and figure that we have the late swap tool in the Sims, which I'd be using for sure because it only takes a minute, but I don't want to have to use that on this where I know you know why? Because value is so scarce. Like, if Parkinson becomes a significantly worse play, if Whittington becomes a way worse play, what are you doing? What are you doing? What do we have? 3 games on the 4:00 slate? You are not going to have a lot to choose from.
Yeah. It would have made things a little dicey. So it kind of sorts some of that, solidifies what I wanted to do. And you mentioned it: Whittington, Parkinson, and Kyron.
Ready to wrap this up. Oh, Jordan posted a poll. Should the Steelers start Russell Wilson over Justin Fields?
No.
88% say no so far. 88%. Yeah. All I see
And
is Gold
I'm no Jets, just for the record. I don't particularly think the Jets are gonna like suddenly flip a switch with Devontae Adams. This is a short of Pittsburgh.
I think Eric Ronas made the most valid point here. He said, I do not care about the Steelers whatsoever. I do, however, hate that that Fields is no longer an option for DFS. I'm with you. Especially because those skinny stacks with Pickens, if it's a good spot, like that Colts game, it won the Millie. Oh, that's a beautiful spot. All right. Ready to wrap this up? Kansas City, San Francisco?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. One last thing, guys. I mean, hell, people go, hey, all these reads. It's actually not that many, but you should be glad I'm doing these reads because we just have so much going on right now that's for you. If you want NBA core through the first, 5 days of the season, it's $1. $1, Ben. How's that sound? $1 for the NBA core package through the first 5 days of the season up through the 30th of October. Pretty damn good.
I mean, what we're doing listen, NBA is an awesome time for us. It's just best time of the year for sports. So we want people. We are confident in all these tools. And it's not just, on the Odd Shopper side, we're doing some really fun stuff we're going to announce, but $1. You've seen people look at chat, a lot of people have already used this. So no better time to get in there, get accustomed, and make sure you get in Discord. That's my number one recommendation, because if you use these tools, you're going to have questions naturally, and you want to talk to people who are also using them. That's what the Discord is for. So you get in there, you hop in Discord, hopefully you make some money.
Yeah, the Discord's included too. You're not paying anything extra or anything like that. But link down there in the chat and in the pin or in the description. $1. That's it. You don't need to use the promo. The link will auto load the promo for you, but $1 for all of our tools for NBA through the first, 5 days of the season. And the great thing is there's NBA every single day. It's not like football. All right, Kansas City, San Francisco. Let's close it out. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about this game, because I am of the impression that I never know what to do with the Kansas City Chiefs. Showdown slates, they're so difficult. Never know what to do with the San Francisco 49ers, especially Mason coming back with that AC joint, but against a really good run defense, Kansas City, a great red zone defense led by Steve Spagnuolo for Kansas City, an offense that has struggled in the red zone with San Francisco. Juwan Jennings is out. Ricky Pearsall's expected to play. That's interesting. Fella got shot, and here he comes. He's back. But and Juju's expected to play as well. What do you do with this game, man? I don't know what to do here.
It's a tough game, I'll be honest. Not the most glamorous analysis. I'm not taking aggressive stands really on anything. I think for the most part, I'm not going to get to Mahomes. I'll throw that out there. It would be one-offs, Travis Kelce, if you want to pay up at tight end. And then I look to the other side with Purdy and his weapons. Ayuk, Kittle, Debo. I think their price points are fair. That's about the best I can say about it. Leverage-wise, Ayuk grades out, and I see that. I think he kind of fits the mold, medium ownership, just north of 10% right now. We'll see if that changes as it goes. But what is there to really say? It's just a really competitive game, and I expect it to be that. I expect it to play towards the total. So I think these guys have some utility. I wouldn't just throw them out of the pool, but is there anyone in this game when you look at it, you say, wow, that guy's wildly mispriced?
No, and that's the problem.
That's what I mean. It's just very efficient.
And yes, it's a 47-point total, but this could shoot out, or it could be 2017 for sure.
Yeah, chat's mentioning Kareem Hunt. It's just really difficult to get a read on what they do. Obviously, when you get 27 for 102, that'll play. But against the Niners defense, I don't really know what to make of him. So he's just another guy. Where is he? Before we get out of here, Kareem Hunt. Yeah, we had about 9% on DraftKings. I think that's about reasonable. He's certainly in play. Just he also didn't jump out though.
He didn't jump out to me. Kittle's the one guy that at the very least interests me. Because Kansas City's one weakness really has been the tight end position. That's been a real struggle spot for them all season long. And we saw it with Isaiah Likely out of the gate. Sure, they were doing what they could to take Mark Andrews out of the game. Looking back, in hindsight, they probably didn't need to. But only the Ravens have allowed more receiving yards to tight ends than the Chiefs, and they've played an additional game, right? Like the Chiefs have allowed the most receptions, and they had a bye week already. So Kittle to me is one of those guys where my guess There you go, Tank. Seal that deal, baby. Okay. I had the over on. I got him at 53.5 before ETN was ruled out. So
He scored, didn't he?
he scored, and I think he's got like 65. I think he's got like 65 rushing yards. So we'll bank that one. Kittle is getting 8%. He is expensive, but you know, I like Kittle to get at least a little bit of him, because when Kittle has those huge games, Kittle has huge games. And once in a while, he just goes nuts. It might be the game against Kansas City, but I don't have a lot of Debo or Ayuk in this spot. I think Ayuk looks decent. I think Kelsey looks pretty good. The simplest way I'd put this is I don't have priorities from this game, but like you said, no problem. Like, they're all in my pool. All of these guys are in my pool. None of them are priorities.
Yep. I honestly just think that's the way it is with these type of teams. You've got good top end players who can get it done, but none of them solidify where I say, okay, this guy's guaranteed to have 12 targets today. It just doesn't work like that with these type of teams.
The boy from Cali will close it out with this. Turn it over to Eric Lindquist, Matt Kajeski. Stick around for those guys. They'll take you all the way up to 1 p.m. lock. They do a fantastic job, and I would suggest hanging out. Even if you're building lineups, put it on in the background. You're going to catch something that is helpful to you. That boy from Cali says, Laffy and Ben, why Worthy not mentioned at wide receiver this week? Juju's not 100%. Here's why. If you're paying for Xavier Worthy, you are paying a price point. You're paying at a price point where there are other guys in that range that have legitimate like 12, 13 target upside. So with Worthy, unless you're getting the big play there, or they just switch it up overnight and Worthy becomes the clear number one, I can't justify it right now. Maybe it happens. Maybe that's going to be the case. But he, you know, even last game, Ben, like Worthy was what, third behind Kelsey and Juju, and if you want to include Kareem Hunt into the mix as well with the work he's going to get, it's just the Worthy price point. He's probably $1,000 overpriced for me at least.
Yeah, I mean he's in the there's multiple guys, and obviously Shaheed is hurt now, but there are certain guys where you just know it's all predicated on a home run. But the higher the price point goes, the worse that gets. Because like Worthy's had some games where he's caught a 40-yard touchdown on 4 targets, so that's not going to get it done.
Megabyte Ronnie, I subscribed 20 minutes ago to offset the dude who unsubbed for talking about the Sonic Knuckles nickname. See, there's a hero in every show. And today it's Megabyte Ronnie. Thanks, Ronnie. Follow Ben at JazzRazBets over on Twitter, me at Laffy_D. Appreciate you guys. You're the best. Almost at 500 likes. We only asked once, so I'm not shocked. Plus, there's a game going on. We'll take it, man. We'll hit 500 by the time I'm done talking, or by the time you say your goodbyes.
Goodbye.
I knew that was coming. Anyway, thanks, guys. Have a great rest of the day. We love you, and we'll see you back here soon. Stick around, Matt and Eric taking you up to lock. There we go, 501. Told you.
Go ahead, boys. Good luck, everyone.
Hands. 5 on the hands for Jordan Klein. Everything's for Jordan Klein. We're just in his world. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to NFL Live Before Lock. I am Eric Lindquist. You can follow me on X at Eric Lindquist. It's week 7. It's Sunday. It's time to frickin' party in the DFS streets. I'm alongside my friend Matt Gajeski, Matt_Gajeski over on X. How you doing, my dude?
Doing pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right because Iowa State somehow by the hair on their chinny chin found a way to get through that one. My dear God.
Yeah, that one got a little greasy there, but they continue to have games like that and get it done. So happy for your Cyclones. They're in a pretty good spot in Big 12.
Good spot in the Big 12. Good spot in the college football playoff. I wanted to ask you about this. I know that we're going to dive into the NFL. I'll cover actives and inactives. Then we'll go position by position like we always do on this show. But how do you feel about the college football playoff this year?
I feel great. More football is better. It's kind of my mantra. It's chaos, which is kind of fun as well. We don't really know yet, and there's a lot that will be decided. So I'm a fan of more football. I don't care who it is, high school, college, XFL, UFL, NFL. More football is always better.
I think it's fantastic. Obviously, more teams, more opportunities for games to also matter during the regular season. I mean, Alabama now has 2 losses tagged next to them. Can they get in as a 3-loss team? Are there implications for going undefeated, but potentially being, a team on the outer realm? BYU would definitely be getting in at this point, but there's just so many question marks that are really, really fun to think through. And every single game has been high leverage on Saturdays. Georgia, Texas, that was kind of a snoozer to some extent. But overall, I think it's just been an awesome, awesome college football season. And obviously, for those who don't know, Matt, spearheading our college football projection, spearheads everything in the college football streets, does a fantastic job. And I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it as well.
Yeah, man, it's fun when we get the crossover to the NFL, especially when there's injuries and then you have some background for guys like Coker and your guy, Jatavian Sanders, and these players that are actually going to see snaps because of injuries.
Yeah, my guy, I talked about it one time ever. He's not my guy. I just thought he was a wagon. He made me college football money back in the day.
I was trying to give you flowers. He had a good game last week, and I thought he was going to suck.
Yeah,
I was taking an L and giving you the flowers.
Well, that was very nice of you. Should have bought you flowers. We got our guy, Jordan Klein, behind the virtual glass. He did a great job this morning. He's kicking. He's going on 8 hours straight and caffeinated, just like me. Let's party, shall we? We've got actives and actives. That's what I cover on the onset. And a couple of them that stood out to me. One, Aaron Jones, officially in. Number 2, Ray Davis, officially in as well, which I think matters more for James Cook, because I thought that was an interesting one where if Ray Davis ends up out, we all saw how good he ran in primetime spots. And, well, I think Buffalo saw that too. It's probably going to cut into James Cook in a $7K price tag over on DraftKings. And an interesting one, I think, just for conversation's sake, Jameis Winston inactive for week 7, potentially on the trade block. DTR now going to be the backup there. Former UCLA great DTR, not very great in the NFL in his limited sample size, but preseason GOAT DTR. Anything stand out to you with the actives and actives?
Not in the early window. I guess if you are playing Watson, the Jameis news is kind of good for you because now you would think there's less risk of benching. DTR is awful. And we've seen DTR, start games and they immediately turn to other signal colors because he was so bad. So I think there's almost no risk that Watson gets benched. And the only reason I bring that up is because Watson is so cheap to the point where you actually need to have a conversation with yourself if you want to play him in a small part of your portfolio. Other than that, the only big news I'm waiting on is in the late window, and it's kind of just Tommy Tremble, which is kind of a wild thing to say.
It is a wild thing to say, but it actually very much matters because my guy Sanders just out. My guy, apparently. Good to know. He's definitely at least interesting. We're all looking to punt at tight end whenever we can because this position has been pure filthiness. Just pure, I just made up a word, filthiness. I think that's the right word, though.
It's that again today. I mean, there's some guys that are in slightly better spots. We'll see if Njoku can live up to, the higher receiving pedigree now that he's up on the depth chart without Cooper, but I don't even have confidence in that. But I think it's a little better than previous weeks, and let's put an emphasis on a little.
Yeah, a little bit. You ready to dive in just a little bit? Not a lot, baby girl, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Jaden Daniels, he's the most expensive quarterback on the slate. What a time to be alive. LSU great. And, well, he's been great with his legs. Carolina, about as soft as an opposition as you could possibly go up against, but I do get a little bit worried about Carolina pushing them on the other side of this one. Washington's defense has been more serviceable in recent weeks, that is. And I think Carolina, God, there's a lot of Carolina that's showing up in my lineups, and it's making me a little bit nervous. I'm under the field on Jaden Daniels, though, at the moment. Josh Allen, nobody is playing. If you want to win a $10 milli with 7,500 Josh Allen, how about 1.5% Josh Allen? That seems like a fun way to go about your life, but how do we stack him up? Who do we even stack him up with? Jalen Hurts, 7,300, probably the most appealing pivot off of the Jaden Daniels in the 7K range. And CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, both going to have to do it all by way through the air. I'm not in love with getting to either of them here. Would much rather go down the line here because we got to find some savings somewhere with guys that aren't just these crusty 3K guys you brought up on the onset. But how do we feel about Jaden Daniels to start things off right from the get-go?
Yeah, it's hard to feel bad about him, especially with this matchup on deck. He does it on the ground, through the air. He's been shockingly efficient as a passer for a player that's behind a makeshift offensive line with what I would argue is not exactly the best cast of skill position players. He's honestly just like a really easy evaluation. He's probably your cash quarterback, and he's the best quarterback on the slate. If you want him to be, or if you want to fade him for your leverage, you absolutely can. Quarterback's generally a position I try to come in pretty flat on, but Daniels is the best of the best, and I don't really think there's a close second here. It's pretty clearly him far and away.
Not gonna lie, Eric is the GOAT. Not trying to glaze. Oh, you can glaze all you want, baby. You can glaze all you want on that thing. I appreciate you. And then just wanted to say thank you to Eric for not using the Joker voice. I really wanted to because I do love chaos. Matt Gajeski, you got a super chat right off the bat in all caps from Rosso Music. Thank you, fellas, in advance. But yeah, Matt Gajeski. I think it was how I was supposed to say that.
What's up, man? Happy to have you here. Let's make some money today. And thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, Eric got the peach fuzz going as well. Yeah, my wife's been out of town for 2 weeks. So I basically have just been here betting on sports every single day. I think there's something to be said about the fact that, go to Europe out of the middle of nowhere for like a week and a half. And it's like, ROI takes a little dip. And then it's like, all I do is sit out here by myself and avoid responsibilities in life. Ooh, there we go. Straight on the up and up. Let's keep it going. But Jaden Daniels, there's no question it's a great spot. There's no question that he's somebody that, I'm not playing cash again today. I thought I was going to end up playing cash because I thought it was a pretty straightforward build at running back. Thought it would be a pretty straightforward build at wide receiver, but you can't get everything that you want on this slate, and that's a little bit annoying. Is Jaden Daniels somebody that you would be saying just lock him in for cash?
Yeah, I'm not playing cash either, so not to be disingenuous, but that is what I would do if I was playing cash.
Yeah, if I were playing cash, I think I would try to find a way to do it. If I were punting, I did try to build a cash build a little bit yesterday as I was screwing around with things to see if it was something I was actually interested in doing. And I ended up thinking that Daniel Jones would be the number 2 guy that you're looking at, which is never a great feeling considering, we're talking a couple weeks ago against Seattle. I banged the drum for him at 1%, 2% in a spot there. It didn't matter because, a lot of other spots in the earlier slate went nuclear, but he had a fantastic game. He gets Malik Neighbors back today, which I think very much helps this game stay somewhat intact, or at least shoots it out. I'm on the over there at 43, so I'm excited for that one. Anywho, anything else at the 7K range here? Because it's just a little bit crusty up here. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a ceiling game from Mahomes, Stroud, Hurts, but how do we prioritize them on this slate?
I agree with you. It's not a range that I have a ton of interest in. Stroud is someone I basically play every single week just because of the ceiling, and I like that game environment a lot. I think if you go just totals and look at the ones that might go a little bit overlooked, that Houston game is definitely one of them. It's sitting at 48. Green Bay obviously favored playing at Lambeau, but that's one that definitely has some back and forth appeal. And the stacks with Houston are cheaper now that you bring Nico Collins out of the fold. It's a little hard to run it back with Green Bay, especially now that you have Wicks active. Probably just renders that a rotation at wide receiver again. But I'm always going to be playing some Stroud, and that's a game basically every week when you get Green Bay completely unowned because of their rotation that I like taking shots on.
I don't want to say this just because, I'm obviously a Vikings fan. I'm wearing a Vikings shirt, Skol, let's go, baby, today. But is this the new Trayvon Diggs that we're looking at here on the other side? I don't know what to make about Xavier McKinney. Is he actually good? I mean, I know he's a safety, so it's a different position, different situation, but like feels like he's selling out all the time for interceptions. Like he's got the number 2 coverage grade in PFF grading. He's been helping in a lot on guys like Alexander and Nixon and really, really helping things function there. But Steph Diggs is going to be in the slot. How do you feel about Tank Dell today? I know that I'm kind of jumping the gun, but if you like CJ Stroud, he's the one guy that I've had a tough time evaluating for this slate. I really wanted to pull the trigger, and I currently have 0 of him. Why do you like CJ Stroud so much? Or like, why do you like him at all, I suppose?
Yeah, he's going to be like 1%. So that starts everything.
True.
A game environment that's a 48 total that easily has back and forth. On a quarterback slate that's really not that good. Like, we'll get down to the cheaper guys. I think they're better, and it's largely just a price thing because the slate is pretty tight. You know, if you just ran optimals blindly, you would get a ton of tight end in your flex, which is usually a sign of a disaster waiting to happen. So he's hard to get to on top of this, you know, Stroud not exactly having the clear stacking partners, but they're cheaper now that Nico's out. I think Tank is probably the most overpriced between Diggs and Schultz, and you're probably not running Hutchinson or any of the wide receiver 3s at this point. But yeah, I mean, using Diggs, using Dalton Schultz, I think that's pretty easy with Stroud.
You say that now, and I'm looking at Xavier Hutchinson in a couple of my lineups. I mean, it's just a pure punt, a guy who has been on the field a little bit more. I've got my snap count data. Hold on 2.4 seconds. Here we are. Yeah, he basically 48 snaps in week 5, 33 snaps in week 6. I think he's just basically the de facto wide receiver 3 over Mechie. I mean, Mechie has been sent to the shadow realm. Go Iowa State.
Yeah, Mechie played a lot more last week, which I'm not really sure why. And then they used a ton of 12. So rather than just put Hutchinson on the field, and I mean, this is going to be a game script thing. If this plays to the spread and it's a 3-point deficit or they're trailing, they're probably not going to run as much 12. But that remains to be seen. With Hutchinson, I can see it just because he's so cheap. And what do you really have to do? You can play him in like 2 lineups, you're over the field, and he is your salary saver. So at some point, it's more about what he allows you to get in your lineups versus what he's going to do. And you're competing with guys like Elijah Moore down there anyway, who also stink. But I think it's just a lot more clear with Diggs, Dell, and Schultz especially.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. I mean, Diggs, Schultz, but yeah, Tank Dell is the one guy that I think I'm going to be playing as a one-off quite a bit. He's just kind of in a weird, I mean, we've seen him sub 6K for a while now. What, 6,400? Somebody that's sneaking into my lineups. But wanted to talk through Stroud because these are the kind of guys that, yeah, they definitely have 30+ point ceilings, but it's all going to come by way of the pass. I can't imagine CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes going to be out there running any whatsoever. So it's tough though. I'm probably not going to land on a ton of him. We'll see. I'm going to rerun some stuff here. We got 70 minutes. You guys can all smash that like button as we go to the 6K range. And this is where it gets a little bit more appealing. Jordan Love, it's such a headache. And we do have Dontavian Wicks. He is active for today with that shoulder injury, so that becomes extra annoying to everybody involved. Joe Burrow, Cleveland, great pass rush. Myles Garrett exists, but the secondary isn't all that appealing. And actually, if you go through PFF grading, once again, the number 1 and number 2 guys that in terms of matchup advantage that they have in their wide receiver cornerback matchup is Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I find that to be very, very fascinating because you can make a case for a Joe Burrow double on any slate, and this one's going to be a sub 3% Joe Burrow to go along for the ride. Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins with all the ATL interest that people have had here the last couple of weeks, and then Sam frickin' Darnold, my dude. Anthony Richardson we'll get to here as well. What stands out to you in the 6K range for tournaments?
Yeah, most of the guys you mentioned at the top are the ones I'm playing. There's a couple great game environments, and then the quarterbacks at the top of those, I think, make a lot of sense. Darnold's getting back more weapons than normal, so he'll have Addison, and he's coming off a bad game, I guess, in comparison to what he's done so far this season. But that's a solid game environment that you definitely want to target. And then you mentioned Kirk Cousins. He's played a lot better since that week 1 when everyone left him for dead. He's extremely cheap on this slate, and his pass catchers are pretty cheap too, so naturally you're going to get a lot of London and Ray McLeod and maybe even some Mooney. And then on the other side, Seattle is going to be a very willing dance partner. They're like leading the league in pass rate over expectation, and it makes sense with Grubb as their OC. Geno's been awesome, and then they have pass catchers. So that's kind of just a really intriguing game environment. This is where I'm sort of living with most of my lineups, and the two players I'm using the most are Cousins and Darnold. The third is actually Purdy in a game that might kind of get overlooked, Kansas City for San Francisco, and I think that's largely just because the defenses are very talented. But then as you go down, have some Jordan Love, again, like that game a lot, so I'll be playing the other side of Houston as well. A sprinkling of Burrow for all the reasons you mentioned, and then sprinkling of Goff. That's about it.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be going not just sprinkles of Cousins and Darnold. I mean, it feels like, this is the most, I don't know. I do feel like a little bit of a homer here today with everything that I'm looking at in my lineups. Sam Darnold gets Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, a cheap Johnny Munt. We don't have to deal with TJ Hawkinson and a potential salary that I'm curious to see where DraftKings drops that at for next week. But I'm very much here for those two individuals in this range. I guess Joe Burrow also for tournaments has to really, really be jumping to the forefront, and Jordan Love at that 6,900 range. I just don't know what to do with Jared Goff here. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown today. I'm going to be using him as a run back. I think he has absolutely no ownership relative to some of the other expensive options, and that makes it very, very appealing. We haven't seen Detroit have to really struggle in a football game here in quite some time. We just see their offensive line dominate at the point of attack, and they just continue to move the ball with David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, and then they have trick plays that they pull out of their pocket. And then there's Sam Laporta and yada, yada, yada. Jameson Williams coming into a larger role on this team. This feels like a spot where, against my Minnesota Vikings, I get a little bit worried under the blitz. They get the ball out quick. Jared Goff is going to be peppering Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I'm still not going to be playing Jared Goff, but he's primarily going to be a run back for me in a lot of those lineups that I have Sam Darnold, where it's going to be Jordan Addison mainly as the main guy, because again, you can't play unlimited salary, and Justin Jefferson also confirmed pretty expensive. I think that's a pretty interesting tandem though to play within the same game environment. Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson, and hope both of them just eat up everything, because we haven't really seen those dynamic 150 and 2 tutty games from either of them. It's coming. It's coming sooner rather than later for both of them. Might as well be in the game with 53 total, but 51 total. But anywho, let's move into the 5K range. Anything else from 6K you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we hit it all.
Yeah, I think we did too. And we got Geno Smith up here pulling quite a bit of ownership, and everybody else kind of forgotten land. I'm very nervous about the fact that I have double-digit Daniel Jones right now. Talked about him as a potential cash consideration. Going back to last season, we've seen the Philadelphia secondary not exactly be all of that and a bag of potato chips. And Daniel Jones gets Malik Neighbors back, who is a freak. We've also seen Wan'Dale, Darius Slayton be all right, although they're a little bit expensive to bring along with it. Theo Johnson showing up in my lineups because you just bring the tight end along for it. And Daniel Jones, I think, has enough rushing equity. Have you seen, he's like north of 26 and a half, 25 and a half, 26 and a half rushing yards here in this spot. You put all of that together in the old portfolio, 5,400 Daniel Jones, my favorite play in this range. I hate it. I hate it so much. How do you feel about the 5K range?
Jones is my second most owned quarterback, and it's never going to feel good, but it's just a price thing. When you have a guy that runs this much at this price, the floor is so nice with him, and he's very easy to stack. You use Wan'Dale, you use Neighbors, and you move on with your life. Philadelphia is a terrible secondary. They're very good up front, so he might get killed on his way. But we'll see about that. Aside from Jones, Geno, I think, makes some sense. I'll be a little bit under on Geno, not by a lot. That's a game we kind of already talked about. But outside of him, I think Andy Dalton is completely fine at 5,200. He's playing the Washington defense, which is probably the only defense right now that rivals Carolina's. So that one has gross shootout written all over it. Other than that, Stafford, I think, does make some sense. They have a good team total. I'm just not sure if they're going to be throwing the ball a ton against Vegas. Watch the Cup news. I don't think anyone really expects him to play. And if he doesn't, the stacks are really cheap with Stafford. Outside of that, I have a couple sprinklings of Deshaun Watson. I know he's sub 5K, but got to at least say his name. I don't think there's really any point in talking about anyone else that cheap.
Is there? I'm going through my lineups here. I thought there was somebody else that I was going to bring up, but it would appear not. I'm going to do it. I have 6% Tyler Huntley. How do we feel about Tyler Huntley as a guy going up against Indy with potentially the worst rushing defense in all of football, 31st in terms of yardage against, but Devon Achane has way too low of a rushing prop, in my opinion. Obviously, you can jump over to Tails, get all of the plays from me, from Matt Kajeski, from everybody else, posting every single day. I mean, I've been in there nonstop here, just continuing to bet. Again, helps to have the wife out of town for 2 weeks. But Tyler Huntley, we've seen him at crazier times. I mean, back in his Baltimore days, he would be like 4,900, 5K on these type of slates, 10-game slates, 11-game slates, and he would be massive chalk. And now we're getting him at sub 3% against one of the worst defenses in football. I think there's something to be said about Tyler Huntley, playing him as a single with Waddle, playing him as a single with Hill, playing him as a single with Achane even potentially, and just saying they run all over Indy. I've done crazier things in my life than this. I don't want to talk about it, but Tyler Huntley, 5,100. Why am I doing this?
He's shown a ceiling, just it's been rare.
Yeah.
He did win someone $1 million a couple of years ago. He's just been horrible this year, but he also joined the team like 3 days before he had to play a game. They've now had their bye, so you'd think potentially they could iron some things out, get him more acclimated with the offense. They have amazing weapons, so at some point, what does he really have to do as long as you can deliver it in a catchable spot for Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle? Beckham is going to play today if you think that matters. I don't, but they've also been hurt at running back. Like Achane's missed some time. Mostert's missed some time. I don't know if I can do it. I'm on the fence about playing him, and I think I might just sprinkle him because no one is playing him anyway. But man, Colts defense bad. They play fast. This could be a gross shootout. It's just you have kind of two factors working against you, and they're both the quarterbacks. Huntley hasn't shown a ceiling in years. Richardson hasn't shown a ceiling ever, really. And it's like you need a greasy shootout with this game, and I don't know if we're going to get it. But I think there's enough skill position players where I think I should be sprinkling, if that makes sense. Just like these guys are too good to not have a good game one of these times.
I just feel like coming off the bye, again, you sold it probably better than I did to a certain extent, but
well, right now I have Tyler Huntley X'd because I just wanted to. Well,
yeah, I have 6%.
This was like it was an exercise thing. I wanted to just see what my lineups looked if I didn't have him. Like, did I get any Miami one-offs?
But think about everything you said. This is a slate that's tight on salary. I mean, shit, I have Daniel Jones a lot, and I feel like this is just another kind of guy going towards that build. I want to get to Amon-Ra St. Brown in that game environment. I want to get to Justin Jefferson. I want to get to Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown even. These guys are not cheap. They're 8K wide receivers on this slate. Thank God we don't have Derrick Henry here, but we have Kyron Williams and Saquon Barkley in a remember me spot. We have some expensive guys that we potentially want to get to. I mean, Kelsey at 6,300, I think is very, 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 very viable as like a pay up tight end to be contrarian. So there's some expensive guys I want to get to. It's really hard to play Jaden Daniels at 7,600. And obviously that entire game, Carolina, Washington, I wish they had ramped up the salaries on somebody there, whether it was Hubbard or Brian Robinson. Like, I'm really doing the same thing that I talked about with Washington last week, where I'm just hoping it's the running backs in that game and nothing else really burns me. I have a little bit of Zach Ertz, I suppose, but I'm hoping it's not a McLaurin, Noah Brown game. I'm hoping it's not a Deontay Johnson game. I'm really, really steadfast on, like, for me, getting away from some of the Daniels exposure at 7,600, because that's just kind of boxing yourself into one game environment in some capacity, because you're going to be punting with like one or two pieces with Jaden Daniels or bringing a running back in Chuba on the other side of that game along for the ride. Like, I feel so much more comfortable just going to something that's completely unowned, that I know there's a ceiling for, that he was a late join to the team. And Tyler Huntley is one of those guys that, again, it's weird to talk about him this much, but like, people usually don't talk about the best GPP plays on certain slates. And like, Tyler Huntley has a rushing upside. And this is a team in Indy that gives up over 155 yards per ground yards per game on the ground, 234 per air through the air. We're talking 26th and 31st respectively in football. I mean, Tyler Huntley fits the bill in every category as somebody to go 2-3x the field on. You don't have to get to double digits. I'm not even in double digits right now, but like, you gotta love this against Indy, no?
I don't love it, but I think there is some unlikely upside if you want to make this somewhere in the 1 to 5% of your portfolio. But I mean, the total's still low. We haven't seen much of a ceiling out of Indy under Richardson. So I don't know if you have a willing dance partner. At a certain point, would you rather just play like Tyreek by himself? This is probably the biggest thing I'm still mulling over on the slate, which is wild to say because it's not going to be a big part of my portfolio. But, like going into a slate, it feels really bad having under 3% Tyreek, Waddle, Achane.
Mm-hmm.
And if you play some of them, like I imagine Huntley's just going to come along with. So I don't know. I'm going to think about this and try some boosts here and there and see what my portfolio looks like. And if these guys are viable as one-offs or if I really should be stacking Huntley here and there.
I have so much Devon Achane. We will talk about him at the running back position, but anything at quarterback to round out our program here, or not our program. Shit, we have an hour to go, but you know what I mean.
Do you have any Deshaun Watson?
I looked at him and then I kept on living my life.
That's fair. He has been decent in some games because of his scrambling.
I do find it always fascinating when we get like a chalk piece like David Njoku and then nobody plays the quarterback. It's like, how do we expect Njoku to put up 15? Like Deshaun Watson has to be semi-functional.
Yeah, I think with tight end, it's just you could have everyone fail again.
Probably will.
Like tight end, everyone's failing anyway.
Other than Jatavian Sanders.
Other than Jatavian Sanders. He had a sick game, and I didn't think he could do it. I was wrong.
You're not wrong very often. It's okay. You know what's never wrong? The Hall of Fame. And obviously, I know Laffy talked about this on the previous program, but hey, it's the first thing that I am intended to talk about here now. It is the Stokastic Hall of Fame. It's been revamped. We have really cool rings if you guys take down big tournaments. Plus, you can get yourself some Sims action. You can get yourself a lot of goodness here just by checking it out. Download our avatar at stokastic.com/HOF. Get yourself a little bit of that goodness. And if you finish in the top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, no matter what the entry fee is, tweet us a screenshot to Stokastic HOF. Get yourself that goodness. And then obviously the Stokastic Ring of Honor, any win of 20K or more gets you a custom ring. Ooh, I could have been eligible for a couple of rings from the NBA season last year. Maybe a great opportunity to check out promo code TIPOFF24. We'll talk about that here in about 15-20 minutes after we talk running backs, of course. But check out the Stokastic HOF. That is, friends, the Stokastic Hall of Fame. Once again, Stokastic, download the avatar, take something down, top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, tweet us that screenshot, and get partying. Alrighty, to the running back position we go, and I'll start just the expensive backs because, again, it just kind of fits the bill of tournament goodness. And Kyren Williams is pulling 21% ownership, but Saquon Barkley is playing his former team with the potentially second or third best offensive line in football, and he is 5% owned. I just don't know how to get to him and Kyren. I don't know how to get to anything else other than, and we got to love Kyren going up against this just playing dead Las Vegas Raiders team. I mean, what is Pierce doing at this point in time? I don't know. You don't know. None of us know, but I do know that Saquon Barkley has a massive ceiling for a guy at 5%. We've seen this so many times in DFS over the years where a low-owned Saquon Barkley is the best kind of Saquon Barkley to get to. I'm forcing myself to get to a little bit more of him. I'm around the field on Kyren. How do you feel about the 8K backs?
I think I'm going to end up slightly below on Kyren because I'm on the back end right now. I'm trying to bump Saquon a little bit. When I ran this, I basically got no Saquon and right around the field on Kyren. It's a product of the slate dynamics. It's hard to play these guys. If you like playing Jefferson, if you like playing Amon-Ra, any of the expensive receivers, if you like playing Kelsey, Jaden Daniels, like you can't play them all. So you need to make choices somewhere. And generally, I like to be a little spread with the studs. They all have ceilings, clearly. And you mentioned the narrative stuff with Saquon. Even if you want to take that out, his role is just so good.
Yeah,
they should run all over this New York Giants team. And they're not tush-pushing as much this year, so there is a lot of red zone upside for Saquon still. He has arguably the best role in football. You think you could put Kamara ahead of him? Maybe Kenneth Walker, but he's right there. I mean, he has an amazing role.
He has an amazing role. He's an amazing football player. I don't think he's been in... It makes sense. It's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is going to run a little bit more than the average bear, but would like some dump offs for Saquon Barkley to add a little bit of receiving to the portfolio, because that's really what makes Kyren look so good at times is you get in PPR formats on DraftKings and you just get 4 or 5 catches to go with it every single week. And it's beautiful kind of stuff to get from Kyren Williams. I think that makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. Even games where he only has 1 reception last week, still 22 attempts for 102 yards. Matt Stafford's going to sit in the pocket and just kind of let it matriculate out to Kyren Williams. But as I see Saquon Barkley at 5%, it just kind of stands out like a sore thumb. So yeah, I'm going to force myself to get to a little bit more of him. I'm right at 20% Kyren Williams, so I guess just below the field, but I feel pretty comfortable with that exposure on it. Don't think there's really anything else to talk about there. 7K range, not really a 7K range. Jordan Mason has the shoulder injury. We saw Isaac, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Tell me.
Guerrero.
There you go. Jordan Mason potentially could cede some work to him here as we're waiting for McCaffrey to show up here. But Kenneth Walker, his ownership has come down. Joe Mixon coming off of last week at 2% against New England. This is still a spot where he's got a great role when healthy. He's only been healthy 3 games, but he's won tournaments in 2 of them. And hard to say Green Bay is going to be some just crazy good defense on the other side. I don't feel like they're that at this point in time. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I know that they have great pieces like McKinney, who we talked about earlier, and Jair Alexander, who's been good for a couple of years, for nearly a decade. But I feel very confident in Joe Mixon being a good tournament play just about every week, that he's going to be sub 10%. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier goes completely nuts last week, but they both go completely nuts last week. How do we kind of read into this against Seattle? Like, what does Tyler Algier's workload look like in a game that they're not up 20-25 in? I get a little bit nervous about Bijan. I don't know if I should be or not at 21.5%. I just feel like last week I was all in on it. Didn't necessarily work out in like the crazy regard that a guy who gets 2 touchdowns and goes completely crazy should, because there's just some other weirdness on that slate. But I think Bijan Robinson, somebody I'm comfortable being lower than the field on. And James Cook, I don't really want to talk about because Ray Davis exists now. I don't think Ray Davis will be taking a crazy workload from him by any means. But the 7K range, kind of a weird one if you ask me. Kenneth Walker, my favorite play by a landslide.
Me too. He is the best role in this range. They're not really using Zach Charbonnet other than a change of pace. He did come into the game with the Q tag, so maybe you see like an extra touch or 2 for Charbonnet, who's a very serviceable back in his own right. But you talk about Bijan, he definitely has more concerns than just about everyone in this range, I think, certainly more than Mixon. And it's just Algier's going to play like 30% of the snaps and handle 30% of the touches. It is what it is. We'd love if Bijan would handle the Christian McCaffrey workload, but that's just not the world we live in, and Algier deserves it. So it is what it is. He won't have the same touch ceiling as these other guys when even, like they play from ahead. But you can still get to him. We've seen productive games alongside Algier, in spite of Algier. They like to run the ball a lot still, and Bijan still is an excellent pass game role. So I'm by no means Xing him out or anything, but I'll be a little bit below the field. Right now I'm looking at 14% on the portfolio. So I'll be a little bit below the field as well. And I'm comfortable with that. It kind of works where I'll be a little bit over on Mixon and then certainly over on Walker.
Yeah, certainly going to be over on Walker at these kind of numbers. I get nervous about him getting steamed. We always have that one guy that when you flip the cards upright, you just can't believe the ownership. I wouldn't be shocked to see Kenneth Walker. I wouldn't be shocked to see him nearly 15. I don't want to say 20% because that's just bad juju, and I would very much hate myself for that. But I have north of 20% Kenneth Walker, and I feel pretty comfortable about it if he's going to be around 10%, even 12%. So pretty confident about that play on today's slate. But into the 6K range we go, and my big stand at running back is Devon Achane. It's strange, too, because I haven't been a Devon Achane guy at any point ever. But there is no doubt that he is a dynamic back. And last year, we were talking about very, 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 very limited snap share alongside Raheem Mostert, and he was still mega chalk in a number of spots because of his game-breaking ability. And now, nobody wants to play Devon Achane, sub 5% against Indy, which is just baffling to me. I think Huntley is better than what he showed in one outing there for Miami. I think he's going to be a better quarterback. Obviously, I talked about that there, but I just think that this is a Colts team that even if you told them, hey, we're going to run the ball every single play, I bet there's a lot of teams, specifically teams that have guys like Devon Achane, that could probably find ways to still be successful, even in those type of scenarios. I have to be firing at 6,700 here, sub 5%, absolutely love it. But rightfully, Chuba Hubbard pulling a ton of ownership. Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson pulling quite a bit of ownership. And Tony Pollard, It is strange to see him as the most popular back, but no Tajay Spears. Even though they're 9.5-point dogs going into Buffalo, that workload has been so good. He's been much better than the tail end of his Dallas career. I don't think that there's a lot I can add to it other than he's popular. And that's very tough on this kind of a slate where everybody's going to be funneled into those same kind of builds if you're trying to save money. I'm trying to shy away from it. I currently have 18%. We'll see how that finishes up. How do you feel about the 6K range? Who are some of your favorite plays?
It's the strongest range in the slate, and you mentioned how you're going to have to navigate this carefully because all of the backs that are carrying significant ownership are parked here. Chuba Hubbard, Tony Pollard, and it makes sense. They're the most owned because they're the best plays with the best workloads, regardless of game script. With Tony Pollard, it's a no Tajay Spears thing. He's pretty game script independent because of his pass catching role. He's been very good in that role this year too. So you might even see like an Alvin Kamara light where the Titans could get absolutely rolled and he could still have a decent game if he ends up with like 6 catches, which is firmly in his range of outcomes. Chuba Hubbard, I mean, like, what do we have to do to get this guy at 7K? He is absolutely smashing from a box score perspective, efficiency metrics. He's rarely coming off the field. Brooks is not active for this game yet. That's really the only real threat. And now you have Washington on the other side. You have the best matchup you could possibly draw up because Chuba can't face himself in his own defense. So, I mean, I honestly think he's probably under-owned. He should probably be like 40% owned or something, in my opinion. He's by far the best running back play on the slate. Like he should be, I think he should be up there closer to like where Saquon is priced at this point.
I 100% agree with you. I think Chuba Hubbard is way underpriced. He's my highest owned running back. I'm pretty comfortable with that too. I don't think there's anything in the entire universe that could get me off of that against Washington here. Again, I'm hoping it is all running back in that one. Him, and then Brian Robinson, that's another guy that our Sims absolutely love. Tony Pollard is loved by the Sims for what it's worth. One thing I am toying with is maybe potentially giving him, or just letting it run unencumbered here, because, I mean, Tony Pollard was my highest owned running back running it through the Sims. I'm not trying to say that, you know, I'm going to know better than the Sims, and that's not my intention in any way, shape, or form, because this product and this Sims tool is better, and specifically in the NBA, it has just made me so much money that I have to trust it and just let it run. But the one thing I'm toying with is because I'm playing a lot on DraftKings and FanDuel like I did last week, I very much want to get to the side of things where I maybe play Tony Pollard a little bit more on DK, where a couple of pass catches, he's probably going to be out there over Joey Chestnut. I don't know his actual name. I think Joey Chestnut. There you go. Julius Chestnut. And we've got Tony Pollard potentially catching a couple of passes. On FanDuel, it's very touchdown specific. You probably want to be playing him a little bit more on FanDuel. I have him as my highest owned running back you want to be playing him more on DK. I'm toying with making sure that I get to more of him on that side of things and potentially short him more over on FanDuel where he might come in a little bit over-owned.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. You just mentioned kind of the different dynamics in scoring between the sites, so that makes sense. I'm not playing on FanDuel today. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to add with him. So I guess I'll just move to some other players that are a little under-owned in this range. I think Aaron Jones is still, yeah, Aaron Jones is a great play. The only real concern is that he exits early or something, because he's done that a bunch of times in his career and he's coming into this off an injury. But Detroit should be worse on defense now that they don't have Hutchinson. I know he's primarily a pass rusher, but he's still a plus run defender as well off the edge. So that just helps him. Excellent pass catching role. I guess Ty Chandler's been pretty good in his stead, so you do have a little bit of worry. You know, Jones is not going to have the Pollard or Hubbard workload, so he's going to rely a little more on efficiency. But luckily, he's been an incredibly efficient player throughout his career. Going down the list, I have a little bit of Josh Jacobs. He's just not seeing the role we thought, with Emmanuel Wilson playing shockingly well as a change of pace. So that's why he's not like a big stand for me or anything, but I'm playing a decent amount over the field of just that entire Green Bay game, so he's a piece. Kareem Hunt at 6K, I think you can absolutely use. It's kind of weird in that game. It's like two offenses we like, and both of them have shown, you know, like cracks at times, and they're facing good defenses. So I think there's just a chance that game goes a little under-owned. I have plenty of Brian Robinson. You already broke him down pretty well. And that about does it for me. I don't have a lot of interest in Achane or like Jahmyr Gibbs, players like that. I see where you're coming with Achane. If you play him, I just don't see the real need to go over a couple lineups. Like there's pretty significant downside with him. And we already broke down the Miami situation. So aside from all the game environment stuff, Indy playing a quarterback that hasn't shown life, Miami playing a quarterback that hasn't shown life, he's still in a timeshare. So like he has a significantly worse role than Chuba, Pollard, similar roles to Josh Jacobs, Hunt, Brian Robinson, but probably worse. So it's like a role price and just a volatile game environment. I'll be kind and call it volatile.
I disagree, but I very much appreciate your perspective on it.
What part do you disagree with?
So I agree with, I disagree with the fact, like, you talked about him relative to roles on other other guys in the range. Like, I think his role, obviously, with Raheem Mostert there, Jalen Wright, like, there's no doubt that, like, picking that one off is one thing, but, like, all of that is qualified by the fact that he's going to be so low owned. I think that that's really what it comes down to for me. And when you can get a guy with, we've seen it multiple times in difficult matchups. Obviously, you had Tua at quarterback and different offensive line to some extent, but Devon Achane, 6,700. This is a guy that was, north of 7K pretty frequently last season, and people were still running to the window to jam him. And he can be that guy. Like, I don't think he's been completely healthy. He's had concussion. He's had a couple of other things that have popped up for him this season. And this is the best matchup by far that you could possibly ask for. I mean, I can't think of a better spot to potentially just take a low-owned running back who has had 35, 40-point upside. We're talking not just a little bit of upside, but lotto upside. So I'm going to be firing that one up. But I get that there can be workload concerns. I get that this is not a Miami game or a football game in general that's looking to shoot out. I'm just kind of playing the ownership game to some extent with him today.
Yeah, I mean, my only issue is like that he would certainly not be a big stand. I mean, he doesn't have to be. He's going to be like somewhere in the 1 to 5% range. 5, I think, is pretty unlikely. You're likely looking at a 2 or 3% on back. So you play 5 yourself. I think that's a big enough stand, and I wouldn't want to go any higher than that.
How does 20 sound?
If he hits, you will be a very rich man.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping he hits in a big way. Anyway, we're going to continue on our merry way into the 5K range. First, smash the like button because you guys, Matt, you love Matt. You kind of like me. You tolerate me. Into the 5K range we go. Trey Sermon exists, and Trey Sermon got 18 carries and did absolutely squad diddly douche with them. And now Godson is going to be a godsend potentially for the Indy. I think not, but I do think Godson is somebody that was showing up in some of my FanDuel lineups for people playing over there exclusively. We've got Ray Davis, who I'm not going to be taking any shots on. Tyler Algier, I get it. 3.4% ownership if you wanted to take a couple of shots. Godspeed and go on your journey, my friends. But not really anything else that's showing up for me. God forbid Jeremy McNichols poaches Brian Robinson. I will be screaming. But sub 6K, anything that you really like or are prioritizing?
The only guy I have exposure to below 6K is Chase Brown. With the Zach Moss fumble, we saw him work into a larger role, and he was pretty good. I don't think he's at real risk of losing this. It's not going to be a great role compared to some of the other feature backs we have on this slate, but, for a sub 6K back, it's good enough for me. And I'm not really buying Cleveland's defense, even though their strength, I guess, if you force me to pick one, would be up front.
All righty. Then we're going to jump ourselves over to wide receiver, talk about tight end, talk about defense, and get ourselves the heck up out of here. But first, code TIPOFF24. The NBA, my baby, is back on Tuesday. I cannot wait. And if you cannot wait either, well, I totally understand because I think it's the best professional sport that we have going right now in America. Yes, I love my baseball and betting on my baseball. Yes, I love the National Football League like every other good-blooded American, but I specifically love the NBA, and I specifically love NBA DFS. We have the best tool in the industry. I don't think it's close. The Sims tool, along with our data, along with our projections, everything all in one. You can get it right now. The NBA core package, our core package offerings, using code TIPOFF24. Once you see our tools, once you see our process and our projections, you will not want to go anywhere else for them because right from the get-go, we will be hitting the ground running. I do think it is the strongest sport for DFS players that exists because if you're paying attention to news and if you know ball, you can find ways along with our projections to make yourself some money along with the Sims tool, you can't find a better situation right now in the entire marketplace. And I repeat, it's just $1, $1 until October 29th. That gives you a long time, a full week plus to be able to utilize these tools and sign up. So yeah, you go to the link below there. You'll have an entire week of access leading up to that 29th. And you will see what I'm talking about right now. So sign up, get that weekly here for $1 down at the link below. Awesome job by our dev team. And wait until you utilize the single game lineup operator there for NBA as well. Super stoked to have that be a part of our process. Thank you, Jordan Klein, for pulling all that up there. That is the Stokastic NBA offerings right now. $1 tip off to 4. Let's get ourselves to wide receiver, my dear friend. Yeah. We've got some ceilings that exist. I talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think that there's a lot of ownership that's going to be showing his direction in any way, shape, or form under any extenuating circumstances. But Justin Jefferson sure is. Holy mother of God. We have a sub 4%, sub 5% Jamar Chase. We've got Amon-Ra unowned. We got A.J. Brown there. I love Justin Jefferson as much as the next fella, but I'm not going to play him here at 20%. I'm spreading more of that to Amon-Ra, to Jamar Chase, a little bit of A.J. Brown, just 4% of him, I suppose. But 8K range, are you going to be playing above, below, or right around the field on Justin Jefferson?
I'm a little bit below on Justin Jefferson for a lot of the reasons you mentioned, and it's just kind of trying to be more spread to studs. There's a ton of them on this slate. We already talked about all of them at the running backs, and that doesn't even include the pivots that we have off Jefferson. He's an awesome play. If you just maybe pick in a vacuum, he's the best single wide receiver on the slate when you don't factor in price. Highest projection, most likely to succeed. Detroit's defense is still susceptible in the back end. They've been better this year, but they had a long way to go to get to, the elite metrics. So yeah, he's an awesome play, but there's ceilings that other wide receivers provide as well on the slate. So I will be coming in slightly below. He's basically exclusively in stacks of that Minnesota-Detroit game. But I mean, if you wanted to use him as your chalk piece and get different elsewhere, that's absolutely an approach you can take. It's just not what I'm going to be doing today.
Yep, I can't play him at this kind of ownership. Is he the best wide receiver in the NFL? I would like to think so. I think that there's cases to be made for a number of guys, one of which doesn't have a quarterback in Miami right now, but that is what it is. I'm still going to play Tyler Huntley because it's not going to stop me. It's not going to stop me, friends, but yeah, I'm very much here for Justin Jefferson having a good game within reason. His projection, 22. He makes a lot of sense, but I'm going to be getting to more Amon-Ra St. Brown here. I'm going to be over the field on him. Jamar Chase over the field on him ever so slightly, and A.J. Brown right around his ownership. So yeah, it is what it is. We continue on to the 7K range where things start to get a little bit more appealing. Malik Neighbors. He's back in our life with a ridiculous first read target share, with just a ridiculous target share in general. The guy gets targeted ad nauseum here. And Stephon Diggs coming out of the slot here against Green Bay, hopefully a little bit more. That would be useful. I think that he's an interesting guy to potentially boost up in tournaments. I'm not there at the moment because I'm hoping it's more of a Tank Dell spot, but that's just me. Jaden Reed, hard to pinpoint that one. Tyreek Hill, hard to pinpoint that one. Deebo Samuel, he's a god, but why did he change his number from 19? The world may never know. How are we feeling about 7K range, Matt?
7K range is pretty good for some of these pivots you mentioned, and I think they're just that. You have Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown at the top. I'd rather get to those guys. I think the best play in this range is Malik Neighbors. All the reasons you mentioned. Whether you think Philly dedicates extra resources to him or not, I don't think it matters. He's probably the favorite for targets on any slate he steps onto the field at this point. Wouldn't you agree? Don't you think he has
yes,
what's his floor?
100%.
Like his floor is maybe like 12 targets, dude.
So don't say that. Don't say that, because I have a couple of big leagues that I co-manage with a couple friends, and he's been our big stand the entire year. Malik Neighbors is in every single one of those leagues. And if he gets hurt because we talked about his floor, I'm going to cry because I will be dead in the water. I love Malik Neighbors. I've said that all year long. I think he was a freak at LSU. I thought Brian Thomas was a freak as well. But Malik Neighbors just pops. He's just ridiculous. And he's open all the time. He catches in contested windows. He does everything you want a wide receiver to do. I think he's probably the most talented wide receiver that I've seen in the NFL in quite some time, probably since Megatron. But my dear God, I find it hard for Malik Neighbors to put you up less than 10 fantasy points in just about any circumstances.
Outside injury, I 100% agree. So he's a great play in this range.
Yeah.
It's just, it's tough when you start, like, let's say you start Jefferson and Neighbors. It's like, all right, now you're punting a tight end, you're playing 3 6K running backs, or maybe someone even greasier than that. You're probably not playing Daniels. So it's like, it's really hard to play them both. Stacking, I think, is really key to this slate, like making sure your lineups are buttoned up and you don't have a bunch of like weird one-offs or like, I don't know, just like errors in your process because it is so tight. But yeah, I mean, Neighbors is awesome. I am going to have more Reed than the field. Again, that's just a product of the Houston game. Same thing with Diggs. Lucky thing with both of them is they're probably going to come in sub 5%. So you don't need to make big stands with them. And I don't plan to. Other than that, that's about it. A sprinkling of Debo because I have a little bit of Purdy, but don't have any Devontae. Right now I have 0 Tyreek Hill, which again, I still haven't decided what I'm going to do with that. But yeah, that's the 7K range.
Yeah, I'm kind of revamping some stuff, making sure that I get the right kind of Huntley lineups and stuff. And again, that's the beauty of the Sims tool is being able to go in. You can kind of toy with some of those specific lineups. You can kind of toy with your pool a little bit too, and how you're simming your lineups out. And that's kind of what I am doing over here on the side as we are talking about some of these plays. And the 7K range, yeah, Malik Neighbors definitely going to be the eye of the apple of my eye. And Debo, I mean, if there are any limitations potentially to Jordan Mason, I do think Isaac Guerendo, did I get that right that time?
Yeah, Isaac Guerendo, our man.
There we go. Guerendo. Okay, so I was actually wrong, but you didn't correct me, and I appreciate that about you.
I thought that's what you said.
It sounded something close to that. We'll count it a win for me. Debo Samuel, I don't think we need to utilize him as much as a rusher there. I don't think they do. I don't know why I said we, but Debo Samuel, 7K. I just think he's got a massive ceiling anytime he steps on the field. He's my favorite player in the NFL to watch, not named Justin Jefferson, and, might be biased there. Drake London is going to be crazy, crazy chalk here in the 6K range. Devonta Smith, we're working down into a range now where I think it is very, very target rich. T. Higgins again, Tank Dell again. I mean, these are guys that are pulling double-digit ownership. I'm a little bit lower on Deontay Johnson because I'm a little bit under on Jaden Daniels. It's just give me the running backs. Please, please, running backs in that game. Be the hero that Gotham deserves. By the way, Batman, I know you don't watch it because you don't watch anything, but it's a fantastic show, so everybody should see that here as well. 6K range, your favorite plays, go.
Hard to get away from Drake London. He's basically like the Justin Jefferson of this range. I think the best play in a vacuum, and then you need to decide how you want to play it. If you want to get away from him is like your leverage stand or just eat the chalk here, which I'm fine eating the chalk because it's cheaper price point and then getting different somewhere else. Again, that game environment is awesome, Atlanta versus Seattle. And London has put up a ceiling recently. I don't think we had seen one for a while with him, largely quarterback driven, but it's nice to know that it's still in there. McLaurin is a big stand for me, one of my highest, positively leveraged in my own portfolio. I think using Daniels, you can play McLaurin at what should be like 10%-ish ownership, maybe a little less. And that helps you a ton with just your stack ownership. And I don't know why you wouldn't be playing McLaurin with Daniels. It's kind of like him or pass. I suppose you could use Ertz or maybe a Noah Brown, but I don't particularly like either of those situations. Other than that, fair amount of Dell, fair amount of T. Higgins. This is actually another pretty big stand for me. Sort of at the expense of Jamar Chase. I don't know if I should be looking more at the full sample of Jamar Chase's career and even that, I mean, like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase have basically been 1A, 1B, and it kind of rotates back and forth who's 1A. T. Higgins has out-targeted Jamar Chase plenty of times in individual games. Like, that's just something that's never happening in Minnesota. It's never happening in New York. But with T, you get him at a price, and you just flat out might have the wide receiver 1 for Cincinnati in any individual game. So I would much rather play T than Jamar Chase at price. I don't think the ceilings are very different between these two players. And honestly, I think Jamar Chase is probably a little overrated. He's had kind of, outside of the Washington game, he's been pretty damn bad this year. I don't know about him deserving, like the Justin Jefferson contract at this point. He definitely hasn't earned it in this season.
No, I think that's maybe a little hyperbole.
What happens? You think he's earned a Justin Jefferson contract?
No, I'm saying that T. Higgins has been targeted more because I think I'm not going to call him the better wide receiver, but I mean, Jamar Chase is still very, very good. You're not arguing that, I don't think.
No, I'm saying it's closer than this price indicates. Like,
That's
T. Higgins
probably
is
fair.
awesome. You know, if T. Higgins sucked, this is an exaggeration now, but he would not be out targeting Justin, or he would not be out targeting Jamar Chase in individual games. Yet that seems to happen every other week.
Yeah, I suppose it's such an interesting thing because I think they're both extremely talented, but like,
Agreed.
it can also be a matchup thing, and we have. Whenever you're analyzing the NFL, it's stressful sometimes for me because obviously baseball I do every single day throughout the entire summer, and I just have so much sample size and I have so much data to go back on. NFL is such a small window, small sample size sport, and you know, if there's one matchup or if they want to exploit one thing, or if one guy trips and falls at the one and Chase Brown then scores 2 touchdowns that poach away from a ceiling for Chase or for Higgins, or like there's so much stuff that can happen over the course of like 1 or 2 games that you're looking at. Higgins didn't show up until week 3. So we don't really have a lot of sample size of them together here, but Higgins has been a monster out on the field.
I mean, they both have been
been
here for years.
Right. But I'm saying that we don't have, again, it's new offense. You have new guys around as well, like the offensive line changes. Joe Burrow's had injuries in the past. Like there are times that he comes out of the gate slow multiple times. He came out of the gate slow this year. He came out of the gate slow last year, coming off of the calf injury in training camp. And I don't know, it just becomes one of those things where we're going to push and pull with the data to potentially say what we want it to say at times. And that's not the right way to do it. I'm just looking at T. Higgins. There's no question that you're right. He's been targeted more. He's been more efficient between the two of them. And yeah, Chase had a massive ceiling game that you absolutely needed him. And you probably wanted Higgins to come along for the ride. I mean, you had all those doubles take it down. I'm just playing a little bit of devil's advocate where I'm like, okay, Jamar Chase is still extreme, but the difference is like one guy is in the 8K range and one guy's in the low 6s.
Yeah, I'm not contending that Jamar Chase isn't good. I think these guys should be closer in price.
That's 100% fair.
And you're getting T around 10% ownership. And yes, I personally, this is a personal take, I don't think Jamar Chase has earned a Justin Jefferson level contract. You could pay him like I don't know. He probably deserves like wide receiver 6 in the NFL money, 7. Like he should not be paid more than Justin Jefferson. He should not be paid more than Tyreek Hill. He should not be paid more than Nico Collins. He has not earned that.
All right, that is fair. Man, I didn't see that one coming, but I very much enjoyed those conversations. From a DFS perspective, though, how much T. Higgins are you looking at playing in your allotment of lineups?
Right now, I have 24%, which I'm probably going to try to bring down a little bit just for risk management purposes. It's kind of a lot.
Nah, say it with
and I didn't boost him. I did not boost him. This is not, you guys have just heard a lot of my bias against Jamar Chase. I did not do anything on the back end to make this in favor of T. Higgins. So now I'm actually looking at bringing him down a little bit.
Oh man. The amount of Jaden Daniels that I'm just shorting here is just absolutely insane. I got a message from Jordan Klein. What do you want? Super chats. All right. We have some super chats to get to. Then we'll get into the 5K range and below here. We got 25 minutes before lock. Smash the like button, get your lineups in, get a set of lineups in. That's what I'm doing here at the moment. And then we'll move along our merry way. Cully Poston, $4.99. Is Aiden plus Bowers plus a cheap Las Vegas receiver a bad idea? Then I get all the goodies. That's
a milli maker player bust.
Yeah, that's a $10 milli player bust.
I don't think you can play that in anything but the milli.
More than likely, straight up bust. And I don't even really think there's any circumstances. Like if Aiden Hutchinson wins somebody $1 million today, I might not be here next week because I'll need to go on a walk of America. I'll just do like the Forrest Gump thing where I just start running.
Do the Appalachian Trail.
Sounds good. Do you even know what I'm talking about with Forrest Gump and the running thing?
I've seen the GIF. That's better than normal, man. Normally, I haven't seen anything you're talking about. But people use that GIF on Twitter all the time.
That's fair. Brandon Wagner, $10, is playing Chubb to Megamind. T-O. We got an add no to that one. But is it to Megamind, my guy, to play Nick Chubb? I just don't think you're going to get enough of a workload to justify making that chance. Like, I can't do it. I don't think I'm going to do it either.
I considered it for a moment, but I haven't done it yet. And it's everything you said. Just like how many carries does he get? Which we don't know. If he gets more than you think, he'd be a reasonable play. I just don't think you have like a 20 touch ceiling.
No, it's really, really hard to envision a world where we get enough of a workload there. Why is Tutu Atwell? There he is. Okay. Wanted to make sure, because this is the guy in the 5K range that I'm the most interested in for tournaments, because I guarantee you Jordan Whittington, pretty popular, wouldn't you say? Looking at my lineups, looking at other people's lineups, he's going to be somebody that pops in this mid-range. You want to get yourself a little bit of leverage on the field. How about a little Tutu Atwell, who's been, I wouldn't say super ceiling guy, but he's been pretty dependable here in this 5K range, and just continues to get an allotment of targets. He was an absolute wagon once upon a time at.
You ask me this one every week. He was at Louisville.
I know, it's my favorite thing ever. I'm going to be playing Tutu Atwell again this week. Xavier Legette, I'm going to be playing him as opposed to Deontay Johnson. I'm just fine getting to him. He's, 6% here at the moment. That's silly. Obviously, I'm a sicko and playing some Jalen Waddle as well. But the main guys, Jordan Addison, Darnell Mooney. I'm not going to be doing the Josh Downs thing. I'm glad that that worked out so very well for everybody involved last week. He was my highest owned wide receiver last week at sub 5%. It was such a beautiful time to be alive. Can't do it this week. I'll have a little bit as a run back in some of those lineups, but no way, shape, or form a priority. 5K range, not nearly as appealing to me here as the 6K range, wouldn't you say, Matt?
100% agree. Favorites are Smith and Jigba. He's my favorite to use with Geno right now in the pass heaviest offense in the NFL. I have a sprinkling of Jameson that's basically just an attachment to Goff stacks. Then Mooney, Lockett, Legette. Those are the only guys I have even a little bit of exposure to. I'm with you on Legette. I would rather play him than Johnson. And it's mainly just a leverage thing. I'm shocked to see him under 5%. I thought this, and especially because you have Whittington, Tutu is somewhat owned. Like there's other players in this range that are owned. So I thought this would just kind of be spread a little more. So if you're giving the chance for, the leverage spot and what could be the greasy shootout of the entire week, I'll take Legette at very low ownership. He's one of my biggest stands ownership in general for the slate versus my own personal portfolio.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I just put that in chat there, EMAC. I like Tutu more than I like Juju Smith-Schuster for half-point PPR.
Tutu versus Juju.
That is kind of fun. Tutu Juju. I didn't think about that. That's adorable. You're cute. 4K range, Jordan Whittington. Now, what do we do with this? This is the guy that in the Sims tool, he's just going absolutely berserk. Him and Colby Parkinson. Again, I'm seeing how much I'm getting of these guys. I'm totally aware. I'm trying to get to Tutu Atwell because of how much of these dudes exist. And the Sims is just jamming both of them. But Jordan Whittington, I think confirmed pretty good at football. I've enjoyed watching him. He was great in the preseason at times. And I think that this is going to be a kid that, maybe the Rams did it yet again for a third time, found another, potentially breakout wide receiver, but hard to really get to him at like 50. I mean, he was in 55% of my lineups. He was my highest owned player there the first time I ran this. I had to mute down his projection a little bit here because I don't want to get to that much of him. How much are you going to be getting to of Jordan Whittington? He's such a talking point on this slate.
I'm like right at the field with him. And yeah, I don't know if it's the Rams continually finding diamonds in the rough or just like Stafford makes everyone he plays with good. So many players have left Stafford and just been horrifying once they were gone. Like Robert Woods is a great example of this. So yeah, I mean, I don't really care who's playing with Stafford, but I want to play some of the guys that are actually on the field with him. Atwell, Whittington, which is why I'm trying not to make big stance with these guys and coming near the field. I'm slightly under on Tutu, but really close. Whittington, I'm right on the field with him, and we'll talk about their tight end too. He's going to play like every snap. But yeah, I mean, they're playing Vegas. They have a huge team total. They're big favorites. I mean, Kyron's always a risk of just vulturing all the touchdowns, but these guys are awesome.
Yeah, they're freaking fantastical. Very much here for it. Trey Tucker, I'm running him back. God save us all. God save us. We need it. Don't know what I'm doing sometimes with my life. Jerry Jeudy, a little bit of him here in this range. Ray McLeod, just a guy that's going to be playing out of the slot here for Atlanta and hopefully going to be continually involved to some extent, but like not a priority for me. I just want to ask you about Juju Smith-Schuster because this has been a talking point. He had a hamstring injury pop up despite the bye here. I am pretty sure my biggest stand of the day from a betting perspective. I know that it's Andy Reid off of a bye. I really don't care. I think San Francisco bashes Kansas City. I don't trust Kareem Hunt and Juju Smith-Schuster in the year of our Lord 2024. However, it's a 4K wide receiver who should be out there as the wide receiver one for. I'm like, he's going to get targeted way more than Xavier Worthy. Like, Xavier Worthy potentially can be a deep threat and useful, but like, I just don't know how to treat Juju Smith-Schuster. What are you doing?
Playing a little bit of him, and it's just because of the price. I'm not really confident that he is the true wide receiver one in this offense. If I were making a bet, I would make that bet. But I wouldn't be terribly surprised if Worthy out targets him. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if like Justin Watson or someone else out targets him in any individual game. The only thing I feel confident about with the Chiefs pass game is that Kelsey's going to lead this.
Yes.
Outside of that, nothing makes me feel good with the Chiefs. But
which will lead us into tight end here, because that's the perfect segue. I want to talk about Travis Kelce.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Smash the like button. Once again, I've said that multiple times this show, but it very, very much matters. Also, you know what matters? Getting yourself the Sims tool in the next 18 minutes, the Stokastic link join. We have unbelievable opportunity for anybody who hasn't signed up at any of these pick'em or sportsbook sites. Unbelievable opportunity. You can get the Sims tool for a month completely free. Completely free. Everything behind the paywall there for you just by checking out any of these books that you haven't signed up yet. You should have exposure to as many sports books as possible. You should have exposure to as many pick'em sites as possible. And if you do so, you're going to be able to get the best line every single time. It's going to increase your ROI. It's the most basic, easy thing you can do to make more money as a sports bettor. But when you check this out, now you're also going to be getting the Sims tool for free, a free month of our core DFS package. And that's in addition to the unbelievable deals, because I know at Underdog, you have an opportunity to get yourself a first match deposit bonus way up there in numbers. I saw almost $1,000 that was going there last time that I looked. It's normally around 200, but don't quote me on that. Just want you to take a look at it for yourself. We have Vivid Picks, we have Better, we have Sleeper, Rebet, which is available in 47 of the 50 states in the United States. An unbelievable opportunity. There's got to be something on your screen that can get you the Sims tool for free. I strongly recommend utilizing that, not just because you'll get the Sims tool for a month, but you're also going to be able to get awesome deals at these sports books. Take advantage now, my friends. So that's the Stokastic link join that is fired into chat there. Get Stokastic Sims for free. Tight end, Travis Kelce. He's got a ceiling.
Volume-driven ceiling, but that's not something we can say for every other tight end on this slate. I don't think there's really much as...
I feel like he's going to just be like the late swap du jour for me. Like, if I have lineups that smash, I'm sure I'll stay with Parkinson, Kyron Williams. I'll do some of that. But, like, I have a feeling that I might end up on a lot of Kelce, even in a game that I don't expect Kansas City to win. I think Travis Kelce is an awesome tournament play today.
100% agree. He's just tough to get to because of price.
Correct.
But he's the only tight end really on the slate outside of Bowers, I think, that has a locked-in target share that you can bank on. There's plenty of guys that have upside. It's largely touchdown driven, but Kelce is the clear pass catcher number one in Kansas City right now. I have no problem getting to Kelce. He's the expensive player you choose to play.
All right, couple more super chats. Al Butts, $5. We appreciate you. Highest ceiling, Josh Jacobs and Garrett Wilson, or Kyron Williams and Amari Cooper on FanDuel single entry. I don't find the Pittsburgh and Jets game sub 40 total, quarterback in flux. We're losing Justin Fields potentially from the slate, where maybe that was a guy with his legs who can maybe get you there in one play. But he is looking at Josh Jacobs and Garrett Wilson, or Kyron Williams and Amari Cooper. I don't love either of those combos because I don't like the Wilson or Cooper side. But if you made me, I would say Josh Jacobs and Wilson, because Amari Cooper, I don't know if he's going to be able to have the same kind of rapport that like a Devontae Adams is going to have with Aaron Rodgers, where you can just have the whole playbook and understand it completely and be out on the field for almost every single snap.
Yeah, I just don't know if he's going to play every single snap. He's only been there.
I'd be shocked if he played like above 70% of snaps.
Yeah, he just hasn't been there long enough.
Yeah, I think that's my major concern with Amari Cooper. Can he have a big play? Sure, but you know what? A lot of players in his range can have a big play and potentially get you there. I think it's a little bit thin for today. So that's my take on that one. So Josh Jacobs and Garrett Wilson. And hey, Garrett Wilson, his life's probably going to get a little bit easier, wouldn't you say, Matt? Just considering I don't know. He goes from being the guy to shut down in the passing game to another one of the guys to shut down in the passing game.
Yeah, you just have to balance the drop in targets versus the increase in efficiency that you project, which is tricky. All I can say is he doesn't project that well compared to the other players. Now that you do have an extra elite talent that catches passes.
Yeah, I mean, you're like the perfect person to ask, though, when it comes to that, because, I mean, a lot of what you do in the college football streets is projecting new environments, especially come bowl time, when we see all of these guys sit out and it becomes a stone cold disaster to do your job. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, you get a change in quarterback, change in scenery. But the difference there is that they've been along with the team for 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and you're still trying to gauge the efficiency side of things or how the change in environment's going to look for wide receivers, for new offensive linemen, so on and so forth. But it's kind of an extreme example, but you know what I was getting at.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the things you're asking yourself are like, how much does Adams raise this offense? Like, does bringing him in actually lead to a tangible jump in efficiency? I think there's a reasonable case to be made that Rodgers is just not who he was at this point. And the target share dip that Wilson is going to see is more impactful than the potential increase in efficiency, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I'm very nervous if I'm thinking about Garrett Wilson today.
Yeah, I'm nervous about it too, but I like it more than Amari Cooper because he's been there forever.
Agreed.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. We've got Eric Johnston, 499. Thoughts on taking a gamble on Devontae Adams tonight, FanDuel GPP. So we're back to the same game environment, same situation. I'm more comfortable taking shots on Devontae Adams than what I am taking shots on Amari Cooper. But do you feel like on FanDuel, I'm trying to see if I have any on FanDuel because I just finished my FanDuel lineups here. Do I have any Devontae Adams? I have 3% Devontae Adams, so he's at least in the pool.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be playing more than that. You think he plays more than Amari Cooper, I would assume, but
correct.
How much? He's not the alpha himself either. Like, it's probably going to be split between him and Wilson, which isn't good for either of them.
Yeah, we talked about all the other super chats. So we're caught up there. Let's round out tight end. Then we'll talk defense for 3.8 seconds, like I know Matt Kaczewski always appreciates from me. And then we'll get ourselves the heck up out of here and go watch some foosball together. Wretched game. Let's do it. Did you get that reference at all?
No.
That was great. I was really proud of that one.
Is that a movie?
Sure is. Waterboy.
I've seen Waterboy.
Doesn't fucking seem like it.
It's been a while, man. I've been watching these games. Like, I've been watching Jamar Chase, unlike everyone in chat. I'm just kidding, guys. I think Jamar Chase is like wide receiver 4 in the NFL. I just don't think he's as good as Justin Jefferson. If you disagree with that, that's fine. I mean,
I'm with you there. Oh yeah, there we go. I
would rather take Tyreek Hill than Jamar Chase.
Sure.
It's once you get beyond that where I guess you could make arguments. I think Nico's played better than him this year. I would rather have CeeDee Lamb than him. So I mean, like, it's not even that I think Jamar Chase is bad. It's like, who are you guys putting Jamar Chase over? You're putting him over Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill. Like, give me a break, man. That's like. So yeah, instead of watching Waterboy, I've been watching the real receivers in the NFL.
My mama said. My mama said. George Kittle, Brock Bowers. Pick one.
Brock Bowers.
Yeah, definitely Brock Bowers for me.
It's just the safety. Kittle, as everyone knows this, those blow-up spots, they're very, very hard to predict. Bowers is absolutely going to get volume.
Yeah, he's absolutely what Matt would consider a wagon.
He is a wagon.
It's an absolute wagon. There's no doubt that he is a wagon. I got to finish my lineups over here. That is for sure. And get those in here because my CSV hates me again. This is great. 10 minutes to go. No big deal. We're not panicked. I'm not panicked at all. I love that graphic. Every time I see that graphic, a smile comes to my face. The Oregon Trail. Did you ever play that in elementary school, or were you were grinding data already as a 7-year-old?
I wasn't grinding data, but I didn't play the Oregon Trail either.
Okay, let's get into the more popular plays here because these guys are punts, de jour. But Colby Parkinson, David Njoku, Zach Ertz, I mean, if I'm going to be playing some Jaden Daniels, I don't mind the Zach Ertz side of things. I've kind of given him a little bit of love to get more than 15% of him. I don't know what to make of how much Colby Parkinson I have. 32%. I have 32% Colby Parkinson, and that's after muting his projection to right around 10. He's at 10.46 here at Stokastic. What do we do with this, my guy? Because, I mean, it just seems like we're just running into the same builds, but it's a position that I think you just kind of attach it to your quarterback if you don't play these chalky guys and move along with your life.
Yeah, man, Parkinson doesn't feel good because of his name, but he's rarely coming off the field. His target share is shockingly good, and they're all coming from Stafford. I mean, what's not to like here? The price is fine. The only thing is the ownership, but it's tight end. Like, I'm very willing to eat chalk at tight end because these players are all so bad, and you're actually getting consistent volume with him.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to do with my life right now. I have so much of these guys. I mean, it's just, they're cheap and they make everything else work. I can get to the ceilings that we want. The Drake Londons, who we didn't even really talk about that much. I like Drake London like everybody else does. I like all of these insane wide receivers if you can get to them. I like, yes, even Jamar Chase, even though, completely unknown and not really
I like
applicable.
Jamar Chase too, just not above CD Lamb, Tyreek Hill, and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. Can Kyle Pitts have a good game here today? That would be really useful for me as well. I'm overweight to him.
Yeah, he seems to have one like every 6th or 7th game now. I thought he was dust, and he's had a couple actual good games, so got to take an L there.
Yeah, you got to take the L. You got to take the L. We'll say on FanDuel, and giving some love to the FanDuel people, Pat Freiermuth, I think, is very, very appealing. Even with the quarterback potential switch that George Pickens alluded to, I think Pat Freiermuth's at least an interesting guy to have some exposure into that evening game. Tucker Kraft, 5,800 on FanDuel as well. I'm looking through some of my lineups over there. These are guys that are just appealing when they're sub 6K because Travis Kelce, 7,100, he's going to be the chalk over there on FanDuel today. So I wanted to throw that out there. If you're trying to get away from some of that, I'm okay trying to get to some of those cheaper guys down there. That is for sure. Anything else Jatavian Sanders, that'll be a decision for me in the late swap department. Only 3 games to late swap today, Matt. I'm a little nervous about that.
Still some pretty good options. Throw back to last year.
Anyone Elijah Moore? Yes, we are on Elijah Moore in 6% of my lineups. Do you have any Elijah Moore? I also have Cedric Tillman for what it's worth.
Yeah, a little less than that. That's the big risk, is Tillman might be playing more, and should be nervous about that.
Yeah,
because Moore has been really bad.
I am looking at my lineups here. All right, I'm going to be able to get these in here. Whew, a little bit nervous about it. Anything else at tight end you want to talk about?
I'm right on the field with Njoku. I think he's an important one today in the increased role without Amari in a pretty good game environment. Calcaterra is interesting as a sprinkling option because of the Goddard stuff. He's literally just a receiver out there. Whenever he's out there, it's not blocking. Of course, playing some Bowers, playing some Tucker Kraft. That's about it for my tight ends. I have a very small portfolio or portion of my portfolio with Sam Laporta, which feels bad, but just hoping that ceiling comes back at some point for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game environment for it. I mean, both defenses have been serviceable. I mean, the Vikings have been awesome, downright elite, but I don't expect that to continue. I mean, maybe that's just the pessimist Vikings fan in me, but there's definitely a ceiling there for Sam Laporta. I'm just hoping it's Amon-Ra St. Brown for today for my lineups. Yeah, that just kind of is what it is. Let's finish this out. Anything else? Yeah, let's go to defense. Defense, we got to do that to finish out our show. I know you don't want to, Matt, but it's very, very important that people must know. Why are the Rams your highest owned defense?
Are the Rams my highest on defense?
I have
we
a
will
feeling
find
they
out.
are.
The Browns are my highest on defense.
Oh, look at you. Riddle me that, Batman. Riddle me that. I don't mind that 2,500 going up against Joe Burrow, who's going to drop back a bunch. They had some issues. It's an interesting spot, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you have Myles Garrett. I literally did nothing on this. I play what it gives me. I do not care who comes up in defense. It's such a volatile position. I mean, I don't know how you could actually make decisions, but anyway, it's Browns 1, Giants 2, Bengals 3, Rams are 4.
That was an incredible breakdown of like, I don't know how you could actually just, come up with anything.
I mean,
yourself.
you can look at like D-line, O-line matchups, find out who's going to get sacks. You can look at like turnover-worthy plays for quarterbacks, interception percentage. Then there's always, like the narrative stuff. Josh Allen will throw picks and stuff. All that's in the projections. I mean, like, I don't know what I'm doing, putting in the extra defensive matchup time, like what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean, my friend. I was just toying with you.
Yeah, that's for the people.
That's for the people. That's really what it is. By the people, for the people. Must give them what they want, and that is me toying with you from time to time. Do we have any other super chats? No, we do not. What? Oh, 100 yards and a touchdown. That's what Jordan Klein is asking for us here. 100 yards and a touchdown. I got to go to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let me see. Make sure that I got him enough in my FanDuel stuff here as well. Yes, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think this is a great opportunity. You avoid Gilmore, who basically exclusively plays out wide. They're going to throw him in the slot. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to win somebody $1 million today. Who is your 100 yards and a touchdown, my friend?
Well, now that you picked the chalk, I'm going to go off the board. Xavier
I
Legette.
didn't pick the chalk. He's not owned at all.
He's like, Amon-Ra St. Brown is like the second most expensive receiver on the slate.
Okay. Well, sorry. Do you want me to go in the mid?
Third. No, now I'm toying with you.
Oh, see, I see what you did there. Role reversal. I'm here for it.
He is the second highest projection among all wide receivers.
The second highest projection among all wide receivers.
Way to go out on a limb, Eric.
Honestly, I'm going to take a limb, Matt. It's very mean. Jordan, why do you always show that stupid freaking GIF? I don't understand you. I don't get it. Why do you hate me so much? Just finish the show for us.
Xavier Legette.
What a sexy pick that was. And that's going to do it here for NFL Live Before Lock, everybody. Fire up. Any other questions you have, save those for this evening. We have NFL Live Before Lock Showdown coming your way for that Pittsburgh and Jets game. And boy, oh boy, something tells me there's going to be a little bit of news to be accounting for. So we're going to do, we're just going to be bouncing out of here, Matt and myself. Any final words for the people as we get out of here?
Watch Tommy Tremble in the late window. That will affect your Jatavian Sanders projection a lot.
Yeah, it's going to affect it almost entirely. I could go from having a little to having zero. Although, yeah, last week it ended up being all right. Let's get ourselves the heck up out of here. Thank you, Jordan Klein, for all of your great work, per usual. I'm Eric Lindquist. Until next week, we'll see you guys later.